Yeah, so yeah, we'll be talking about abuse today. Oh, oh. Hi ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Chatroom with Max. Let's begin immediately.
It's your boy Max. I want to introduce a show to you. It's called Chatroom with Max.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Pay attention whenever you're
don't stop.
The primary sign, usually on an adult in a domestic violence situation, are bruises.
God gave him a talent. And the Bible says your gift will make a way for
When we sit there and we blame God for the things that are happening in our lives, no. God never told me to lay down with that man.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the world, welcome to Chatroom with Max. Today is going to be very, very hot. In fact, today is going to be so hot than the weather that you have experienced in your country or state. Ah, Today we'll be talking about a topic that we've actually touched on, but we decided to bring it back because it's something that is very, very serious. In fact, hmm, I don't want to say too much until we just begin and roll into it. I want to thank you for your continuous patronage. You have made Chatroom what Chatroom is. Thank you very much for constantly being on the show. Thank you very much for constantly watching, for joining us, for sharing, for liking, for your participation, for your comments. Oh my God, you guys have been awesome. You guys have been awesome. So please, let's know who is watching and where you're watching from so that we can recognize you and give you the accolade. And if you're watching us from a replay later, please and please type your comments, type your question. We will follow up with you. We will respond right there in the comment section because, hey, we're here for you. Okay? So, I just want to share this real quick with us, right? And let me see. Can I share this screen? Okay, I'll share it later. But in the meantime, I'm going to begin first of all by bringing up someone who was here last week, who he shook the table of chat room. At the end of the show, I was looking for my microphone. I had to find it at the corner. He's here again to do justice, to do serious shaking to today's topic. Today's topic is one that I'm going to bring in once we settle in. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I want to welcome to the show the one, the only. Hey, should I just welcome him now or just? In fact, just audience begin just begin to clap, begin to clap. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Professor Adedoyin. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much. Say honor to be here and to be back again. To God be the glory.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Welcome. How was your week, sir? How was your week?
Well, I would say it's been very interesting week. Once you called me and informed me about this program, as I often do, I quickly went into research mode because whatever we present to our people must be balanced, objective, and verifiable. So, so I think by the grace of God, we're going to have a very informative and very, very energetic talk today.
Yes, sir. So I want to thank you for coming back to the show to join us. We appreciate you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. So, people, before we bring in Doctor and Lillian, and we have a special guest in the house, and this special guest is here to tell us her life experience on the topic or the subject matter at hand. But before we proceed, please and please, as we always do, don't forget to like where you're watching this from. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Do not forget to hit the notification tab so you know just when we come on. And lastly, hey, there's love in sharing, okay? So share, okay? All right. So, Prof, the topic for today is one that I know that has affected a lot of families.
Yeah.
It's one that I know that a lot of families will be affected by, not just families alone, but I believe the core fabric of our society, the pillars that hold our society together.
Yeah.
So, the topic is, does the church encourage domestic abuse? Does the church encourage domestic abuse? Does the church encourage domestic abuse? So, if you're watching from home, please let's hear what you have to say on the comment section. Write it, no, right. Just find the comment box anywhere. Comment from there, and we would respond to your comments. Okay. So, Prof, you want to tell us a little bit about domestic abuse?
Yes, I mean, I'm going to wear two hats. The first hat is my theological hat, and the second hat I'm going to be wearing is my social worker hat. I'm a social worker, and these are things basically, we see every day. But more importantly, and very, very specifically, we're looking at the intersection of domestic violence, or what we call domestic abuse, and the role of the church. And so this question is a multi-million-dollar question, which has to be answered very, very cautiously. Because, we would say, the question says, does the church encourage domestic violence? Then I would say we have to look back at the originator and the starter of the church himself, which is our Lord Jesus Christ. And I looked at it in reading through scripture preparing for today. I realized that did Jesus actually have a policy around women who were abused? And so, reading the scriptures and preparing for this, I think the best way we have to look at is, did the owner of the church, did the originator of the church have a policy towards abused women? What did Jesus do when he met or encountered abused women? What I found out is that if Jesus has a policy on addressing abused women, why is it that today our churches do not have a policy about women who are abused? Because if the person we are following has a policy, then it's giving us a model to also have a policy. So quickly, not taking too much of your time. For instance, I'll start with John chapter 4. In John chapter 4, we read the first time Jesus encountered a woman at the well. This woman was a Samaritan woman. This woman had 6 husbands. And the seventh man she met in her life was Christ. And this 7th man basically made this woman the first evangelist in the New Testament. So Jesus' policy, as we can see and tease and basically extract from many scriptures, shows that Jesus never left any abused woman alone without basically providing what I would call spiritual, emotional, and physical therapy for them. So what I'm trying to say is this: what if we can model Jesus? None of our women should be abused. Therefore, to answer that question, I would say it is yes and no. Yes, in the sense that, again, in preparing for this, I've supervised students, I've participated in the research that looked at what we call clergy sexual abuse, CSM. Clergy sexual abuse is basically the misuse of power that the clergy uses. It can be an imam, it can be a pastor, it can be a rabbi, it can be an archbishop, it can be anybody in any leadership position in church, and how women are basically sexually exploited, sexually taken advantage of. And so the yes to that is that because the church hasn't done anything tangible, especially in our own climate, in our own geographical boundary, with specific reference to Nigeria, then we can say, yes, the church encourages it. Because to be honest with you, before I came online, I was trying to search, what is the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria's policy on domestic violence? What is the Christian Association of Nigeria's policy on domestic violence? Because without that, what that simply means is that if any pastor is accused, of domestic violence or domestic abuse, and there's no national or what I would call ecclesial punishment about it, then the men in the church will just see it as, okay, you can do it and get away with it.
True.
So that is the yes to that answer. The no to that answer is that would we be fair to put so many responsibilities on the church?
Mm.
So I would say no, because what has happened in our unique society is that the fact that we our structures and infrastructures are not as sophisticated as in some other developed countries, people seem to expect the church to do what the government is supposed to do.
Oh yeah, very true.
And
Very true.
so, again, in preparing for this, I looked at some of the policies in Nigeria, like the gender policy of, I think, 2018, or yeah, in Nigeria. And I realized that, okay, even if we have this policy, what is the enforcement? Because there's no enforcement of this. Therefore, we can basically absolve the church. That until we have a law enforcement component part of this, we cannot basically say the church has a role to play. However, the role I think the church has to play is this. There are cases in Nigeria currently where pastors have been accused of abusing women. There are at least 2 national stories. What has the PFN, what has CAN, and what has the church board itself done to these pastors? Because if you let them go off, or if you don't address it, then it reinforces the notion that if you abuse a woman, you can get away with it.
Oh yeah. Wow. Whew. Oh my God. Wow. 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 This is already. We are just starting. We're just starting. Oh God. We've already started. Prof has started breaking all the tables that needs to be broken. So we've had a little bit from Prof. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the show the one, the only, Dr. Tolu. Welcome.
Thank
Our
you
one and only.
very much. I'm sorry, I was trying to put out a few fires, but I'm glad I'm here.
It's okay. You're about to put out some here too.
Oh, I see. Okay. Hey, Prof.
Hello, Dr. Tolu. So nice to see you again.
Same here. I hear you've been doing things while I was gone.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Prof just, last week I was just telling the people that Prof last week broke everything that we had here to the. I was looking for my mic. I had to find it at the corner. And now I hope the laptop will not fall.
Oh,
Like this today. Yeah. So before I ask Doctor the same question, I just want to indulge everybody watching right now from home and from wherever you're watching, from your office and everywhere, right? This is a show where we say our opinion, we say things the way they are. We try not to sugarcoat anything for you. If you want sugarcoated materials, go to a political site or the church. I'm sorry, you will get them sugarcoated. But we try to break things down for you, let you know things the way they are without any. So please, because I was getting some reports like, yo, you guys are harsh on chat room, you guys, I'm afraid to come on chat room because
Yes, we do.
and if you notice, guys, what we try to do, what we actually go at each other. It's not that we're fighting, but sometimes it's good because you get to hear different perspective.
Mhm.
So please just follow, okay? So if you have not liked, let's do it. If you've not liked, please and please begin to like right now. If you have not subscribed, go and subscribe. If you have not hit that notification tab, hit it, and share, okay? Please share. There is love in sharing. Thank you
Yes.
very much, Doctor. Welcome to the show.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to the show. People, don't forget to share your comments. Let us know where you're watching from, and we'll say hi to you. Okay. So, Doctor, we're talking about the topic for this week, which is: does the church encourage domestic abuse? Does the church encourage domestic abuse? And Prof has already started. My table is beginning to shake. Prof starting already. Just intro alone. Prof had to take us back to the time of Jesus, saying, did Jesus encourage domestic abuse then? And the answer is no. So if Jesus, who is the founder, who's the head of the church, who is like the founder of the church, did not, why should the church begin to? So he had a yes and a no answer to that, meaning that at some point down the line, there is a strong disconnect happened, or we did not put some policies in place to protect to protect our people from domestic abuse and domestic violence. So my question to you, Doctor, is before I take that question, sorry, we have a comment from Rachel Catherine Miller. She says Rachel Catherine Miller is here from California. Welcome to the show, Rachel. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining. And Jacinta says Jesse Chops watching from Nigeria. Actually, Jesse Chops is backstage right now. She's with us. She's backstage.
Okay, awesome.
Lounging, relaxing, waiting to be brought up. We will bring you up, Jesse Chops. Don't worry. Aha. So, Doctor, what do you think about that question? Does the church encourage domestic violence? Let's go, Doctor.
Alrighty. I'm certainly glad we're talking about this because I know we've had shows that address stuff like this in the past, but with our sister Sinachi's passing, you will notice I mentioned her name on purpose because many times in this past week since her passing, all I hear is the deceased and the person that passed away. She has a name. Her name was Sinachi Nwachukwu. Now, as to the answer to your question, if we limit the expression of the church as you and I both understand it to mean in Africa and in Black communities, the answer is a resounding yes. But if we mean the question to apply to the true believers in Jesus Christ, I am about to upset some tables and I do not apologize. If we mean that expression to mean the true followers of Jesus Christ who are truly saved and who are walking with him, no. That group called the Ecclesia does not do such things because we are saved and sanctified by the blood. We're walking with him by his spirit, walking in the comfort and the fear of the Holy Ghost. We do not do such things to sisters. But if you mean this institution that we created in 350 or 300 AD, yes, totally. And so I will not destroy more furniture. I will leave it alone for now.
Okay, what Doctor just simply did, Doctor just set up the furniture to be destroyed and say I will not destroy it. She just put timer there. So when it's time to just capsize. Okay, I see you. Okay, let's talk about let's go to domestic abuse. As Doctor mentioned, it's sad that we lost one of our illustrious sisters, Minister Osinachi, actually a music colleague. And it's so sad that people got to know about the abuse publicly after she passed. Now, she confided in some people and nobody said anything. But rather decided to say something after she passed. Now let's talk a little bit about abuse. Let's talk about while we're talking about it, let's also get the answer to this question. Could abuse go both ways? Women abusing men, men abusing women? And if that's the case, what makes the other side more prevalent than the other side? Who wants to go first?
I'll let Dr. Tolu go first.
Yes.
Minister Mix, that yes sounded a little bit somehow. But
Doctor, you said timer already. Just go and continue to shake it.
So you said what is abuse, right? Is that where you started from?
Yes.
Very good. Now, part of the problem, I believe, is the unique way that our culture raises girls and boys differently. But it's the question itself. Abuse, you break it down, the abnormal use of something. Abuse in a domestic setting is a unique kind of abuse in the fact that it is often shielded from other eyes by the four walls of a house. But of course, there are the absolutely crazy and wild people who carry on their abuse in public. But most of domestic abuse happens away from prying eyes, away from eyes that could intervene. Now, what is abuse itself? We tend to lump all kinds of things into it, but usually we mean either verbal, emotional, or physical abuse. And I remember in a prior show that I mentioned that physical abuse is often the top rung of a very wicked ladder. Usually abuse starts from verbal abuse, put downs, the person shuts you up, they talk down at you, they are condescending, they don't want to hear what you have to say. They make you feel stupid. You say things and they're like, oh, where did that idea come from? And if the person does not fight back, if there's no pushback, they're like, okay, all right, we can go a little further. It becomes emotional abuse, withdrawal of affection, the silent treatment. They let you know you've done something wrong by withdrawing affection from you instead of sitting down and talking about it like two mature adults. They're not just cold, they're withdrawing, they're just unpleasant. They are very jealous, insanely jealous of any relationship you have. Doesn't matter even if it's your biological family. Going on from there, they tend to isolate their victims very quickly. And many people, particularly women, initially see it as a sign of affection. They're like, oh, I want you all to myself. Of course, that sounds nice until you realize what they're doing is building a wall around you, away from everybody who loves and cares for you. I have, I've let all of this out. And of course, physical abuse is usually these people have an anger problem. And so the person that you're dating, when they're angry, they hit a wall or they break stuff or they throw stuff at the wall. That is a precursor to that stuff landing on you. But moving forward from here, because I know we addressed this in the prior show, and I'm just glad that we're addressing it again, because a lot of people do not see the signs of verbal and emotional abuse. They think it is normal. And I think part of it is the way our culture raises people. Maybe where that shift happened. But when I was growing up, people were a lot more civil to each other. But somewhere, I don't know, maybe Prof has a similar, I would love to hear his thoughts about this. Somewhere in the late 80s to the 90s, something happened. And we have this present situation that we have, that people are so volatile and people are so quick to, verbally attack. And some of the things we say, we don't realize it's verbally abusive. It's only when you move into another culture and you realize that you can't relate to those people like that because it comes off as rude. Yeah. But when in our culture, we don't see it as anything. And so a lot of abuse victims do not recognize verbal abuse when it starts. And so by the time they get to emotional abuse, they're like, oh, maybe it's just a man thing. Maybe I said something wrong. No, something is wrong with that person. And so by the time you get to physical abuse, it becomes an issue of shame. The person is now too ashamed to tell other people, particularly when it happens in a religious setting. Who will you tell? Who will you tell? If you go tell your pastor, they'll probably tell you to go pray. Or some other ineffectual thing. Not that I have issues against prayer, but I learned a long time ago that the Lord will not do for us what we can by ourselves do with a brain.
Yep.
So I will leave it alone for now, lest we destroy any more furniture.
Okay. You have destroyed enough so far. Prof, sir.
Yes, I mean, to answer that question, I would say I do echo what Dr. Tolu has said, that there's a cultural aspect of domestic abuse. And one thing she quickly mentioned, which I think should be captured, is dating abuse. There's a whole lot of literature on dating abuses where, people are abused, as they date. And that basically should have been what I would call the first signal, that if you're being abused in a date, then it's going to escalate in marriage.
Oh, yeah.
And the culture is there. There's also what I would call we are a very patriarchal culture, where they believe the man, very masculine culture, where they believe whatever the man does is all right, it's okay, it can be investigated, nobody should talk about it. And it's been reinforced by a culture that says that, in Yoruba land, they will say a woman who goes to her husband's house is going to a school. I mean, some of the Yorubas here, they will say, in Yoruba, and I'll try to translate it as much as you can. They will say ile oko ile ẹ̀kọ́, which simply means when you go to your husband's house, you're actually going to a school. And so people have this reinforcement of, the man, a woman should be submissive. There's been a lot of scriptural religious misinterpretation, which was what made me to ask the question that within the context of the church, which of course, why are we talking about the church? We're talking about the church so much because it is one of the most viable and powerful social institutions. It is that institution that honestly, in the culture and the country we are from, it is mostly like the institution people run to. The institution people spend most of their time at and in. And therefore, I want people to pardon us if they feel, why are we talking about the church? We're talking about the church because it's the only viable institution people basically go to and find hope and find respite and find some elements of refreshments or refreshing. And so what am I trying to, that was why I started out with this, that until in the African and specifically the Nigerian church, the PFN, that's Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, the CAN, that's Christian Association of Nigeria, and other religious bodies, until they come out with a standard policy on domestic violence, on dating violence, on violence against women. And like Dr. Tolu has basically said, it could be any type of abuse. Until those entities, those ecclesial entities, ecclesial entities come out to give us their policy, this thing will persist. And the reason why Sister Austin Achukwu's case is so powerful is because of her stature.
Yeah.
There are a lot of women who have been killed. I mean, there are stories of, ministers, imams, and everyone who have been abused. Even recently, a very prominent female Islamic cleric or scholar, she was abused. Private videos were shared online, but it is persistent in our culture. And that's what I said earlier, that until the church comes out strong. I remember when a very popular Nigerian pastor's case came out about 2-3 years ago, people were pressing the PFN. The PFN talk about this. Everybody said, well, churches, they were avoiding it.
Yeah.
They were avoiding it as a leprous situation. In fact, some pastors came, to the presence of this prominent pastor. In fact, there are two of them which basically seems as if nothing concrete is out of. The implication of that is it reinforces the culture that women can be treated anyhow. It reinforces the culture that if you abuse women, you can get away with it. It reinforces the culture that men are basically should not be held accountable. And I deviated a little bit to the fact that to CSM, which is clergy sexual abuse. If clergy sexual abuse is not dealt with, we're going to keep having domestic abuse. Because if people can deal with pastors who have abused women because they are in a position of power. When you look at the literature and it talks about clergy sexual abuse, it talks about people misusing power, advantage, and trust.
Yes.
So if clergy sexual abuse is not basically dealt with in our context, in the Nigerian and African culture, it reinforces itself at home. So what I would say is it's just like men emulate their pastors. So most men emulate their pastors. Most men see their pastors as basically the model, or what I would call the people they look up to. We don't have any of those pastors who have cases currently pending dealt with. Honestly, we're just going to have another talk show. Yeah. Because once there is an example, or once there, let me give you an example. Look at what has been happening with the Catholic Church in the last 3 years. The Pope had to come out strong to discipline and basically defrock some high-ranking clergy. The Southern Baptist had its own case about the last 6, 7, 8, 9 months, 10 months, where women practically came to the SBC convention to protest that enough is enough. The SBC must have a policy. And true to it, the SBC has basically brought a policy whereby they are telling people that if you have cases, if their issues will not resolve, please come out. Come out. And people who have mismanaged or who refuse to report even domestic abuses that the women came to inform the pastors, they've been told to step down.
Yeah, they're culpable.
So what I'm trying to say is this. Until we have in our culture and in our church systems in Nigeria as a case study, specific policy actions. Look at Sister Osinachukwu's situation. The story we're hearing is that our husband is a pastor. So where does he pastor?
Good question.
Where does he pastor?
More important, who ordained him?
And then the question is this: are there what I would call yearly evaluation for pastors? Now, somebody will say, "Oh, we are here again to talk about this." If there's a yearly evaluation for pastors, evaluation in terms of performance and telling the faith, then that evaluation should. I'm just trying to talk about how we can deal with this from the ecclesial system, that's the church system or the ecumenical system, so that it trickles down, because that's just the way our culture is structured.
Works, yeah.
Now, in the evaluation, we evaluate the pastor for soul winning, for preaching, for everything. Do we evaluate pastors on how they handle their homes? Because if in this case of our sister that has passed on, if there were to be an what I call a yearly or let's say yearly pastoral evaluation, probably somebody would have caught it, because that evaluation would mean that they probably would have called the wife and the children to say, okay, can you tell us how your dad or how your father or husband behaves at home? Something must have been caught before this happened. So let us leave it at that.
Yeah, I agree with you, sir. I agree with you on that evaluation. Listen, but what I think will be a problem there is the fact that how comfortable will the family of the abuser be to open up and say, yes, my daddy does this or my husband does this? Because also don't forget that could be that pastoring that he's doing. It's not just because he likes to pastor. That's his source of livelihood. That's his job.
Well, was he pastoring church?
Well, they say he's a pastor.
I don't know if I don't see now. There are conflicting reports when all of a sudden nobody seems to know who ordained him. Nobody seems to remember who ordained him and how did he get into this position. But more to the answer to your question, it says a lot about our want of transparency.
Yeah.
There's this culture of silence in our that it's just horrible. If something goes wrong, if anyone tries to intervene and bring in the law, then will come all the beggars in quotes and the begments. And the folk will just be like, oh, the Bible says we should forgive. I'm like, that's the only time people remember the Bible says we should forgive. When someone has done something egregiously wrong, and a party, whether the law or somebody, is trying to bring justice to bear, and all of a sudden everybody comes begging. Now, in this sister situation, I hear at some point they were separated for like a year. And then the husband came with a pastor. Now, in all the readings I have read about this thing, for some reason, none of those publications contains the name of that said pastor who came with her husband to come and beg her to come back. See, we're leaving something very important here. The fear that the abused has for the abuser. It trumps reason. It trumps any other thing. Nothing anybody say makes sense. And I want to segue this into something that's been bothering me about this whole situation.
Go ahead.
The church preaches no divorce under any condition.
Except
as far as no, there was no exceptions. There were no ifs and the buts. It was no divorce under any condition. Now they go ahead and say, oh, but we say somebody should flee abuse into separation. What they do not say publicly is that they are condemning you to post-abuse celibacy. How is that Christian? How? You say, oh, we say you can't divorce, but you can separate. What you're saying is that because under the laws of Nigeria, you cannot get married unless you properly dissolve a prior marriage. So you'd say to these people, although we say, no divorce, but you still can't remarry. You can say, what are you saying? You're talking out of both sides of your mouth. And I'm not in any doubt that this may have been part of the reason why our sister Nachi stayed in this abusive marriage. Because you and I know that if she came out and she became divorced, her ministerial invitations will dry up the speed of sound. they would dry up. I'll give you a pastor's example. A dear friend that I know, he's a pastor. He had, just a very disastrous marriage, and he sought divorce. This is a pastor, right? Who had numerous speaking engagements, just a very likable fellow, anointed. Well, guess what? As soon as his divorce became known, till today, there are people who do not speak to him. Till today. I kid you not. This is something that's over, 10, 11 years. Till today, they do
Wow.
not speak to him. What are we saying? What are we doing to each other in the name of religion?
Okay.
Now, and this is a man who is financially independent. Now imagine a woman who is not financially independent. There's another story of another sister. I don't want to butcher her name. It's on Facebook. It surfaced just after Sister Otinachi's death. She had the same thing. She divorced because she was in an abusive marriage, and all her ministerial invitations dried up. Like that. He specifically told her, no marriage, no ministry. A woman who was fleeing abuse. Again, I ask, are we still human when we treat each other this way?
Okay. Thank you very much, Doctor and Prof. Thank you very much. We have a comment from Jacinta. She says sometimes some of the pastors will see the red signs, red flags, but we still advise for them to go on, that the guy will change.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So okay. This is what I think. Divorce comes with a stigma that a lot of people, are afraid to have attached to their names. Because divorce will also affect not just you. If you have children, your children too. They'll say, oh, don't go and be friends with that person's child, though. The father and the mother divorce. I don't want you to come and either go and divorce in your own lifetime or come and make us divorce. It's not contagious.
Yeah.
It's not contagious. But in the case of our late sister Osinachi, a lot of stories have been going around. And there's one thing about me and stories. As long as I cannot verify, I really do not want to hammer on it. There are some things that people have said. First of all, it started that, oh, she died of cancer. And then it came up that, oh, she died after the husband multiple times kicked her in the chest.
Mhm.
And then it came out that, oh, she had a prior medical condition, which might have been the reason. But I guess the autopsy is what we would wait for to know the actual cause of death. But till then, I still try to maintain neutrality in the sense that, was the man abusive to the woman? Yes, he was. That has been established. But the reason why a lot of cases, especially in Nigeria, a lot of abuse cases don't get judged properly is because of the way we as a country, or as the people in a country, would rush to have our own theory of how this person died. And now all that is left for the defendant is to prove that the exact way the person died is not how he died. And once he can prove that the exact way this person died is not how he died, then he won the case. Because everybody's mind will now turn and say, oh, it's not, she didn't die that way, so he's free. Let me give you a perfect example. That little boy that was killed by a boarding school. We talked about it on the show actually at some point. He was killed in a boarding school by 4 other boys. And Nigerians came out to hunt the parents of those children, those 4 boys. They sent those 4 boys abroad. It went on social media, everybody, till they brought those boys back. And they did autopsy. Now, the whole theory Nigerians created was, oh, they gave the boy engine oil to drink and he drank it and died after beating him and all that. Now, all they had to prove was what he drank was not engine oil. Autopsy came out. What he drank was not engine oil. Okay, everybody turned around and went back to their houses because it's not engine oil. Now, in this particular case, we have to be careful because people have said, oh, she died out of multiple kicks to the chest, which made her to have blood clot in the chest.
Hmm.
There are some medical conditions that could cause that.
Yeah, quite a few actually.
If there were multiple kicks in the chest, there's no way you would not see signs.
Mm-hmm.
No way. Doctor, you are looking as if, where is doctor? Let me see the face, doctor. You are looking as if, talk to us. Now you have started touching me again. Let me repeat myself again so doctor can talk. If if there were multiple kicks that led to her being hospitalized in
Yes.
coma,
Yes.
there would have been some physical sign of abuse. Yes or no?
They should. They should.
There you go. So now, was she abused? Has she been abused? Yes. So if we can focus on the abuse,
Mhm.
that would go better than making the fact that the abuse, the multiple kicks to the chest, which no one has proven yet, even the children that they were interviewing did
Mhm.
not say that.
I think it was a bad idea to have interviewed the children
Yeah.
because they're already traumatized enough by all of this, and now to have that these children are going to grow up someday, and as in the whole thing is just wrong to me. I think it was a spectacularly bad idea to have interviewed the children.
Yeah.
When I heard that the Minister of Women Affairs went over to talk to the children and she came out and I was like, no, now you shouldn't have. If you're going to talk, you should go to console and you can talk with them, but don't interview them as in you want them to
Like these are grieving children, for goodness sake. As in, have we no boundaries? At least have a counsel or somebody there. Just you. So you have this. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think the children know her personally. So now, not only is their mother gone, they've watched her, allegedly been hit many times, and now their mother is suddenly taken from them, and then they now have all kinds of random strangers coming in and asking them questions. It just seemed a little too much for me. It seems a little too much. Children should not be treated like this.
No, they should be protected.
But back to your question.
Yes,
I think you're right. I think that the focus should remain that this was a victim of abuse, and that let the autopsy come out, and then we can proceed from there. But one thing I'm happy about, just today, like 2 hours or so before the show started, I saw a post of a young lady who canceled her wedding this weekend.
Wow.
Because she had been a victim of abuse. I'm telling you, I did a little dance and I said, one more soul saved. So if out of this, other than aside from justice, I firmly hope that justice happens for our sister Osinachi's death.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I want to see many more women coming out and say, you know what, I'm not putting up with this anymore. And we as a culture being empathetic towards them instead of being judgmental.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way we're going to move forward as a people. We have the same conversation on my school WhatsApp forum, and I had some very interesting discussions. People said, "Oh, should you leave after the first time?" I'm not sure. I'm like, "Oh, I am firmly convinced. You should return. The person should receive an equally powerful deterrent so that they don't do that again." We still are not come to the point where we think the life of a woman and the life of a man are equal. Until we get to that point, we're not moving forward.
Okay. Someone said something so at some point last week when the whole thing was going on, and the person was preaching, and the person said domestic abuse should be handled based on the community you are based in.
So what do we have law for?
Okay.
If we begin to segment domestic abuse by community.
Hold up. Now,
I'm waiting. I want to hear the end of this.
you see, okay, No, it's one thing for someone to make a statement, and it's another thing for you to reason it out in the way you want to reason it out. So it's just like saying, yeah, I'm responsible for what I tell you, but I'm not responsible for how you interpret what I tell you. Now,
That can be argued in a court of law.
I know it can be argued, but even the judge there will have to be like, okay, I'm responsible for
You get a very good lawyer.
how you interpret Akildi is your problem. But
I mean, but the beauty of it is this: if you say it to be handled by the community, then the definition operationally comes, or let's say conceptually, is that define community.
Exactly. What is the community?
Because it could be, being a member of a church is a community. Being a member of a neighborhood is a community. Being a member of a family is a community. Being at work is a community. You know, you can also have virtual community, which is exactly what we're having. So if we say it should be handled by the community, that simply means every system that woman belongs to should be responsible for our welfare and well-being.
Oh, I love it.
Saying it should be handled by the community does not mean we should run away from the reality, because a woman belongs to a community. She could even belong to a small group in our church. That's another nested community in the community.
Yeah.
So what I said, until we all embrace this reality, preparing for this, something came to me. If you ask, what is the apex? What is what I would call the icing on the cake? What is what I call the jewel of the crown of God's creation? It is women. Because it is women. It is women. Because when God finished everything and said, okay, everything I've done, I looked at man. Of course, because everything God kept creating, as we read in the scripture, was good. It got to me and said, it's not good. And God said, there's one more thing I want to create you guys have never seen before. And He brought women. Until we come to that point, like Dr. Tolu said, where we see women as the jewel on the crown of God's creation, as the what I would call the best God, the last thing and the best thing God did in creation in the 6 days, until we revert that dignity that God bestowed upon women. Honestly, this is going to persist. Until we are, and I think the beauty of it is social media has actually made things to be much more travel faster, and people are basically more organized on social media now. And I think people are bolder, to now talk. Because for a long time, silence and basically walking away has been the order of the day. But social media is exposing a lot of things. But again, I'll go back to what I started with. How did Jesus encounter all the women? I mean, how did Jesus treat all the women that came across or encountered Jesus? How did He? The scripture is very replete with a lot of examples. Like, give a good example. Again, look at the woman look at the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman. That woman was divorced at least 5 times. Because Jesus said, woman, go call your husband. And she said, I do not have one. And Jesus said, well, and she said, I've had 5 husbands, and the one I am living with now, that makes it the 6th one. So the 7th man in her life was Christ. But guess what? He never condemned her. So why am I saying this? Because I know, Ramex, you mentioned something about what's the church attitude about divorce. Why is it that women stay in a relationship even when they're abused? But you see, when we look at the scriptures, we can see what I would call the Christological policy of Christ on abused women. Look at the woman with the issue of blood. She was stigmatized.
Yep.
She had a disease or a medical condition. Jesus stood to attend to her. Look at the woman whose son died and just met her at Cain. The woman, what do you call it? Jesus ensured that woman's crying and sorrow was resolved. Look at the woman with the alabaster box in Mark 14. He practically said, if Jesus was to be a prophet, you know that this woman was a terrible woman. He never left any abused woman to their situation.
even the one that was being stoned.
Yeah, I was talking to that woman.
Please, you people, let me say something about that woman.
Okay.
You know, people say this scripture. People say, oh, when something happens and you are trying to correct something, they will say, let him who is without sin cast the first stone.
Yeah.
But that is not what the Savior had in mind. That's not what he meant. Because remember, the woman was caught in adultery.
Yeah.
They brought her. Please, people of God, was she committing adultery by herself?
No.
Was she committing the adultery by herself?
No.
No.
That was why when they first came and they were yada yada yada, yada, he ignored them. I believe he was talking to the father, like, Father, what would you have me say to these people?
Yeah.
And as soon as the Spirit of God spoke to him, he got up and he looked at them and he said, let him who is without, he had a particular sin in mind. It was hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Because the law of Moses said both the adulteress and the adulterer were to be stoned to death.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether the adulterer was their friend, Neil. I don't know what happened. But all we saw was an adulteress who we all know was not committing adultery by herself. And so when he said to them, let him who is without sin cast the first stone, he knew and they knew what he was saying. It was a sin of hypocrisy. Y'all know you should have brought two people. How is it that you brought this one person? And that's why the Bible says that their consciences convicted them.
Yeah.
And they went away from the oldest to the youngest. He was in no way condoning her sin. He was simply addressing the sin of hypocrisy. I say that to say that when something is wrong, we've got to stop misinterpreting scriptures and be saying, oh, let him who is with us. Stop it. That's not what that scripture means. You all need to stop misinterpreting scripture. But carry on.
I actually okay, let's take this comment first of all before we continue, and then we'll bring in our special guest who will come talk to us for a minute. She says, let's see, we have this comment saying, live so that you can live. So live so that you can live. That's me. That's her policy. That's the thing. So she was talking. This is a comment where she's talking about the house where we brought in, where we were talking about how they brought in the children and all that. Yeah, says it's already a damaged house because the person in question is dead. She also says a community can't work in Nigeria. Work. Okay.
You see how fun?
Emeka says, hi Emeka. He says, I had a lady who I had a lady who cancelled her engagement and she actually testified about it. Guess what? I clapped for her because it takes a lot of courage. Broken engagement is better than broken marriage. Yes. I agree with
you. Amen. Amen.
Especially in a society where everybody is pressuring you to get married.
Yes.
Marriage is now an achievement. You know, that's like the icing on the cake. You've gotten your degree, you've gotten your work, you're working, you make money. When are you going to marry and settle down? So if you don't marry, you will not settle down in life.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So what I also want to say is this. I like to be balanced. I like to be even across the board. Yes, we have women who are being abused by men. And we also have men who are being abused by women.
Yes.
And the funny thing is, if men will begin to troop out to tell you they were abused, they are going to come out in their numbers.
That's right.
The one reason why a man cannot come out and say, my wife beat me, is just because, come on, you just heard how I said it. Imagine you're looking at me like this. And then I hear, my wife beat me. My wife beat me. She lay hands on, she slapped me, she kicked me. You'll be like, oh, this man, you're a woman rapper. Your wife beats you. So it still boils down to that whole community thing, the way people see men and the way people see women. People see men as strong and macho and tough and hard and all of this. And people see women as soft and gentle and fragile and this. Doctor said women should be treated like the jewel that they are. I also say that again.
Actually, that was Prof.
Okay, that was Prof. Okay, Prof said it. I also think men too, both should be treated with the respect and dignity that they both deserve. Why?
Agreed.
Because I've seen cases where a man will just sit down on his own, and this woman will come and begin to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And the man will be like, no, please just leave me alone, please. Now, this is where you're turning a non-abuser to want to look like an abuser. Oh no, please just leave me. I want to be on my own. Why will you tell me you want to be on your own? Da, 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 da. Listen, you are not calm enough to have a reasonable conversation with right now. So I will just walk away. And then before you know it, wham, grab the trouser. Come here. And then before you know it, was a slap. Boom.
Hmm.
And then the man will now turn and be like, leave me alone. That's leave me alone. Ah, he abused me. Oh, he abused me. I've killed me. He abused me. Because he did that. Now that is now making the man. If people hear the story outside, that oh, my husband did this. Nobody. Okay, so one thing actually pisses me off. I'm sorry, I'm going to say this. I came on the show because I had to, talk about this, but also I had to watch how I talk about this because, as a professional, and all that. But please, how many times have you heard stories of abuse based on men and based on women, and proper questioning was done?
Mhm.
It's
Like
simply not part of our culture.
Mhm.
nobody asks questions. As long as you hear it, you shut your mind to every other thing. And I was on a live TikTok chat, someone's live, and someone came out, a lady came out and was talking about how this guy was abusive to her and everything, and everybody was just raining curses on the guy. What did the guy abuse her with? That the guy he wasn't working then. He had enough time for her, giving her all his time. Now he got a job. He stopped having time for her. And then he now started not being with her more. She now started looking for that attention, but he doesn't have it. Now she felt that she needed to have that attention. She now fought, she came, dragged the man, dragged the man. The man didn't want to talk. The man now hit her hand. She now came on and said he was abusive to her. Everybody was abusing the man. And I came on and I was like, okay, let's rewind back. Let's go back a little. So before he got a job, he had all the time for you, right? Yes. So what do you think is causing him not to have this time for you? Is he seeing someone else? Oh no, I think he's busy at work. Okay, he's busy at work. He doesn't have time for you anymore. Does he give you everything you want? Yeah. But the time is what he doesn't, right? Yeah. You did not have time to sit him down gently to talk about this. Like, make your plans, talk. See how you can get time out of his busy schedule. But no, you went to the point of dragging his trouser and he hit your hand and he's abusing you. And everybody here, all of you that are busy shouting, and everybody kept quiet because they realized that the man was busy with work. The woman did not take her time to talk with this guy and figure out how they would walk on it. But instead, she went the violent way, and the guy hit her hand so she can leave him alone from holding his pants and hitting him. So a lot of questionings are not being done. Once people hear abuse, everybody just shut down.
I think part of the problem is the fact that one, unfortunately, we're not a literary society. We simply just don't read. Number two, we do not know the meanings of some words. We don't know the meanings of, like, okay, signs of abuse. What constitutes proper abuse? So that at least we can have a meeting of minds. So when you say abuse, we both agree on what you mean by abuse.
Yeah.
So yes, I knew an older gentleman when I was much younger whose wife was violent. At least this woman was making noise and pulling his trousers. No, when this, as in, for me to remember it now, when this woman got angry, she would break a beer bottle.
Wow.
Yes, as in she was violent. But guess what? Big, strapping, muscular man. As if you see that man, this person must not slap you. And I'm not lay hands on her. And finally, he just left because he knew somebody was going to kill somebody one day. As in, I'm talking like way back young, when I was a little child. She was violent. If she got angry, she would break a beer bottle. And everybody was scattered to the four winds of the earth. I say that to say that abuse is not one directional, but worldwide. The statistics show that women are more likely statistically to be abused than men, which is why we ended up in this show today. It is not to say that men don't get abused, but I firmly believe when there's a problem on the ground, name it and deal with it. And do not dilute the waters by bringing some other problem, So I appreciate the fact that it's being mentioned, because sometimes I get this, I've heard it too on our forum. People are like, oh, men are being abused. I'm like, but that is not the problem we're dealing with now. Not to say that we do not appreciate the fact that it happens. But worldwide, women
doctor,
abused.
worldwide, if you conduct a poll, right? They will tell you that. So if you are breaking abuse, if you break abuse into different subcategories of abuse and conduct that research again, I bet those numbers will change, because a lot of people, when you say abuse, just like you said, a lot of people don't understand the word. Once you hear abuse, in their head, is hitting. So I can only abuse somebody when I slap the person or beat the person up. Listen to this comment made by Temitayo Odusoro.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. She says, Doctor,
there's also the verbal abuse angle for men. Most men that experience domestic abuse most likely experience verbal abuse.
Yes.
You mean like women with the tongues that are swords?
Do you realize how? Listen, men, right? Men can take you slapping them because the pain will go and go away.
True. Yeah.
But you open your mouth and talk. You this useless man. You good for nothing man. Come on now. And a lot of women are used to those kind of words.
Please, where are you people meeting these women?
Doctor, I was talking with our special guest who is backstage, and you happen to come into our conversation. I was like, Doctor is an Ajebo person. Doctor grew up in a very nice tush neighborhood where she didn't see life.
The lie, I will have you know. I am as lucky as they come. That is it.
Let's take this comment and then we'll bring up our special guest. Kudos Manjabes in the house. Welcome back, sir. He says, Doctor.
Hello. We have to understand the dynamics of men and women. Women power is in their tongue to match men physically. That's why abuse is a thin line to analyze following the aftermath. Okay, I'm interested in you fleshing that idea out. Please explain what you mean.
Yeah, I already see where it's going, but Prof, it looks as if the way it's as if Prof wants to say something. Go ahead, Prof.
One of the things I wanted to say is this. I appreciate the fact that, again, to bring equity and balance, we've talked about how men are abused. I mean, quite honestly, there's nothing that hurts a man most than when a man is basically despised, denigrated, abused verbally, and basically, insulted. However, again, that happens because we do not have a system where such things can be reported and dealt with. So, for instance, being in America, I would say that you can't just talk to people anyhow.
Exactly.
You cannot. Even your wife, even your child, even your fellow workers, even people in the same church.
Yeah.
There are different, misdemeanors and unacceptable verbal assaults, they may call it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I said it's true. It is true, Bramex. I appreciate you for bringing this up. Men basically react physically if it abused verbally.
Yeah.
Because it's like they've reached their peak and they are so angry, and of course it's like, and you see, and God has created women in such a powerful way that no matter what you say,
sometimes I'm like, God, why did you create women?
No. God has created them in such a very powerful way that even when you try to say your own, it doesn't pain you as what they say to you. It doesn't pain them. So you want to a man.
We don't open up a box.
one of the things I learned recently and personally, I always say you can never win a woman in a debate. You can never. I mean, in a talk, in a match, in any way verbal. And that is why I think some men, and this is not justifying what they do, in a bit to say, what can I do to return the weight of this pain? And that's why they go physical.
And then I now bring back this comment that was said. So, doctor, you see how the commenter is in now?
Oh, I suspected that was where he was going, but I didn't want to misunderstand him. That's why I wanted him to explain.
Okay. So go ahead, sir.
So what I would say is this. I think what has happened now is this. Like Dr. Tolu rightly said, that this is not unidirectional. It is actually both ways. So what we need is a system where there must be, in America we call them mandated reporters. So mandated reporters are people that when you hear or see anything that is not right or suspicious, everybody basically looks after the other person. So it is basically, okay, if a man feels that a woman is verbally abusing him, who and where can he go? I mean, you may not want to escalate it to calling the police into your affairs, which of course is not what I'm talking about, but there must be systems. Again, permit me without being overbearing that, okay, the only social institution people go to is the church. I guess people to the church where a brother can go to, or people in the dating relationship go to and say, you know what, this is what this lady has done to me and it hurts me bad.
Yeah.
And then that can be resolved. Okay, we may say that globalization has made our culture to be extremely diluted because in the past the marriage structure in most African countries, particularly in Nigeria, where we are from, where I am from, you when there's a crisis at home, you report to the in-laws or you report to your own family. Conventional system, a extended family intervention system. I think we have to go back to that. Reporting what a wife has done to a parent or your own parents or your own friend. I think just for the safety, overall safety of the man, overall safety of the woman, overall safety of the children, I think we have to basically resurrect and basically establish that communal, local interventional system. So if a wife abuses the husband, before it escalates to physical abuse, I think and good enough. Guess what? We have a phone now. We have cell phones now. So you can just say, in the past, you would have to travel to the village to go and report. Now you can call and say, this is what she said, and of course, there can be immediate intervention.
You can record the conversation.
Yes, and then that helps the man, that helps the woman, because once the woman knows that, oh, my family or the community is aware of this, it actually makes her to chill out and to cool down. And it's the same with the man. I think we have to restore our communal togetherness and our unity as a culture in order to save people's lives. Thank you.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Prof. While Prof was talking, our wonderful brother Sam Soft just joined the show. Welcome to the show, Sam Soft. Welcome. Just clap for his Stop. What is it?
How you guys everybody doing? How's everybody doing?
We're doing okay, Joy. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you, Doctor. It's good to see you, Prof. It's good to
Thank you, sir.
Love, brother.
Thank you.
So before we hear from Sam Soft, let's just take these comments because Doctor was waiting for this explanation.
Okay, so here goes. I will use science to explain. You do not bring gasoline and a match in close proximity. They have good benefits, but dangerous aftermath when you ignore the warning.
He's a man full of wise sayings, even in science.
I believe you are comparing human beings to inanimate objects, but I get it.
Okay, Emeka furthermore says,
statistically, women are more physically abused and men are more verbally abused and assaulted. Having said that, some men are dangerous in their own terms. I actually know human beings who are like this.
That's true.
Absolutely unpleasant. Absolutely unpleasant. I believe the reason domestic abuse continues is because there are no consequences. Users know there will be consequences for their actions. They are sure to be better. Agreed. Excuse me.
Emeka also says,
awareness and consequences are key factors to solve this issue.
Yeah.
I
agree.
I do agree with that because I've personally seen an instance where a woman was physically abusing the man, and after physically abusing this man, she called police on the man, and they arrested the man on top. After she's the one that actually abused him and all that.
Mhm.
But that notwithstanding, before I bring Sam Soft on to talk about this, I wanted us to watch this video, this short video.
Oh dear.
So Sam Soft knows the video I'm about to pull up, but I hope this will let me get this video in. Let's try. Eh, no. Okay, so let's just bring Sam Soft in first. So I'll work on that video and then we'll bring Sam Soft. Sir, what is your take on the topic for today? Does the church encourage domestic abuse?
Oh yes, the church. The reason what I would say yes. The reason I say yes, they encourage domestic violence is because they encourage the people to hide it. They don't want to talk about it. They encourage the people to keep it, they sweep it under the rug and say, let's pray about it.
Mm,
And they always use that word, let us pray about it. And the woman end up dying or the man end up dying. You
mm,
keep on praying about it, and God has already answered your prayer for the fact that you realize the fact that you brought it up to the
Yeah.
pastor. That's the answered prayer. You brought it to the right person that's supposed to like immediately try to help you out, but instead they push you back in by saying that, oh, they sweep it under the rug and say, you know, um, you should pray about it and work on it. He's going to change, or she's going to change. But guess what? An abuser never changes.
Yep.
I'm not saying that people cannot change, but for the fact that you dated this person for a while and you've
Mm.
known them for a while, you know he's an abuser. You know, everywhere you see an abuser, you know. The woman sometimes, like I hear some women say, they like it when their men beat them. I say, you need deliverance. Something is wrong with your mind. You need help because
Definitely.
I don't see anything romantic in a man hitting you and beating you. It's not romantic. So I don't see that. I don't think that woman is all right. So I want to say that yes, the church does encourage it because they like to sweep it under the carpet. That's the reason why I feel they encourage it. Because if they frown at it, they preach against it, they
Mhm.
bring the man out and rebuke the man openly for the fact that he lays hands on a wife. That's a serious issue. You bring the man openly, just the way you bring them openly when they sin. You should bring them openly when they abuse the woman. when
mm.
when you when you suspend them, put them in the back seat. When they sin, you should put them in the back seat when they beat their wives.
Okay,
Also,
okay.
when the wife beats the man too. So
Yeah.
vice versa.
All
Because
right.
some
Let's take this
women,
comment from Bethan Codrington real quick. Hi, Bethan. Welcome to the show. She says, Doc.
I had my pastor at the time tell me to go home and don't come back to church until I heal, and that I had a nerve to come to church with any kind of bruises on me. I thought I was covering it up. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
makeups.
Okay. Let's take this
It
one.
has to be a medical condition to interpret assault and battery as evidence of love. Oh, I'm sure my sick colleagues have a name and a title for it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's take this video real quick before we bring in our special guest who has been patiently waiting backstage to share her story. I want you to watch this and then we'll talk about it. Just watch.
It's not very graphic, is it?
No. It's not too graphic. It's not graphic. There's no blood. And there's
You
no
see,
people crying.
it's something that it comes with a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the guy on the white and black is a male. The one on the black is a female. Let's watch it. Okay, so that is the way majority of the people in our world today view abuse. You can see that. Let me shed more light. This is so serious because whew, okay. There was a first punch, second punch, third, and then a retaliation. Boom, 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 boom. Please, someone say something.
I have to say something.
2 minutes.
Do you have to kill yourself before you know that you two of you are not compatible? You don't have to kill yourselves before you realize we are not supposed to be together.
But you know,
Because
people will tell you that, oh, every relationship has issues. I hate it when people say,
no, this issue is a serious one. With this kind of punches,
With this kind of punches, even me, I don't go to that relationship. That woman is very strong.
exactly.
who is the aggressor in this situation? Because
Both of them, but the woman started it.
the whole thing
Let's
was referring to me. So I
Let's replay it again.
oh, I'm not sure I want to see it again. Is that
doctor,
what-
just watch. Ah, you doctor. Doctor.
No, you are asking the question. So
First punch.
No, I'd like to see what happened before this. Because all I see are just hands flying.
There you go. But you can see with the way now my struggle is throwing jabs. I'm sorry. I wouldn't want to be at the receiving end of those jabs. I mean, no,
What do you think? Because the opening scene
doctor,
already
doctor,
goes
I know
with
you struggle, but that
hands
kind of jabs. They
laid.
give me one like this, I'll faint.
You know, so I still don't see evidence of who started this. I'm
Doctor, you just.
but does
you
it
just-
okay, doctor? Does it matter who's like? This is just aggressive. The both of them.
no,
They
it
are
is.
not supposed to be together.
No, that's not
You see what doctor is asking of right now? You see what doctor is asking of right now? This is not what a lot of people, after hearing people come out to say,
It's true.
I
They're
was
always on the other side.
I was domestically abused, I was assaulted, I was beaten up by my husband. Nobody ever asked to go back to the beginning. Everybody wants to pick up from where Punchy started. Nobody wants to know what happened prior to that.
Oh, that's a good one. That's true.
Because you open all I see are hands flying. I'm like, okay, who's
And then the other thing we don't know is what really caused this situation.
yeah.
Could it be that the woman caught the man in a compromised situation and the next thing she did was to basically react that way? So not knowing the trigger can make us to misinterpret what we've just seen as a clip.
But does the reason
Not exactly.
does the reason excuse what an assault, an abuse?
And aggression.
Not at all. But again, it goes back to one of the comments. It goes back to one of the comments. One of the comments you just read. It is because there are no consequences. Because see, one of the reasons why in a country like America people don't express. Of course, we talk about the concept of emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Emotional intelligence. 101. Emotional intelligence simply means that your ability to restrain yourself, you know, in situations where normally you would have basically reacted or thrown a punch or say something. That is emotional intelligence. So it takes us back to, okay, irrespective of whatever happened, if I do something, I may basically be breaking the law. You know, the law would be the law of the land, in which case somebody could call a police and press charges to say this person verbally, physically, or psychologically assaulted. Because when you look at this clip, it's just showing us that, okay, it could have been an environment where both of them think there are consequences for their actions. So it goes back to what one of our listeners have said and intelligently contributed, that because there are no consequences, these things persist. Because if women know that there are charges that can be pressed on verbal assaults, in fact, some people actually can call it terroristic act. I've seen people who have been charged with, terroristic acts. I've seen people who have been charged or have had charges of verbal assault. So when our system basically comes to a point where, irrespective of either it's a man or a woman, there are consequences for all these types of domestic abuse. Until we get to that point, honestly, we're still going to be having this discussion.
Okay. A comment just came in from Emeka. He says, Doctor.
On Samson's point, a woman or man who is aware of the person's abusive behavior before marriage, how is that the church's fault?
That's true. That's true.
Oh yeah. Now, Temitayo says,
okay, that was a lot of violence.
I'm telling you, if I was okay, let me explain something, right? The normal human instinct is to either fight or what?
Flee.
Fly.
Now look at the angle that guy was.
He was pinned to the wall.
I'm sorry. There is no amount of flying you will fly. It's your spirit that will fly from your body last.
Yes.
But you know one thing?
Same space.
You know one thing? If you are not an aggressive person, and you have that habit of escaping from a situation like that, you can still escape from it. Like for instance, you will find a way. Like for instance, immediately he was able to push her away. You can turn around. Exactly.
He didn't push her away. He punched her away.
Yeah.
He punched her away.
Back to my original point. How did this situation escalate to where it is?
But doctor, you keep bringing that up because it's like we are trying to justify something.
No, not at all. No, at all.
So there should be no reason for physical aggression. No reason whatsoever. That's the reason why I said. If the two of you know that you are not compatible, or maybe there are some people that don't even know how to talk. The reason some people just go in a relationship, sometimes is sex. They have sex and they enjoy their sex, and that's it.
It was good. So
but they don't even understand. They don't even understand how to communicate. Sometimes they can't even have a simple communication.
And that is why Doctor is asking the question that she's asking, because it must have gone from 1 to 3.
Somewhere.
Yeah, because they don't really know how to communicate. They are not meant to be together.
Okay, people. Bethan says I can't during the video, and she says and she gave emoji. And she said she now used words.
This is not good.
It's painful to watch.
Jacinta says
the narrative that tells people that being in a relationship at all costs, it's just a heartbreaking shame that it's taken the death of another victim of domestic violence. Yes.
I don't really understand it.
No, you don't understand it. As in, like, you've got to be married at all costs. That's what she's alluding to.
Exactly.
You got to.
Better says.
You see?
This is reality. Yes, it is.
And Emeka says,
I think it's okay for churches to encourage people to work on the marriage, but firmly stand against abuse of any form. See, this will work if you clearly teach people to know what abuse is, to clearly know what can be worked on in marriage. See, that I talk to my husband and he shuts down, he can't communicate, that can be worked on. When we're talking about being belittling and condescending to another person, sorry, I'm not having that discussion with you. No, we're not even in the same, we're not in the same space.
Okay, and let's keep going. Bethan says,
my first husband and his friend, 2 men beat me, kicked me in my head and face, trying to kill me. Now, is that violence? Drugs were involved. We were on addicts. I remember the testimony.
You remember Bethan's story, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So drugs was involved. Emeka says,
my question to the panel, how do we deal with verbal abuse where there is no physical abuse? Ooh, I love it.
But that's a wonderful question. Before we take that question, let's take this last segment. Jacinta says,
but why will he fight her like she's his fellow man?
Look at wait. I will usually not comment during question period. Jacinta, did you see the jab that woman was throwing? She wasn't his fellow man. She wasn't like his fellow. She was more than his fellow man. Superior man. He was
Meaning,
more man. See,
And you have to understand. Let me tell you.
even if I was a boss, I cannot throw that. Like she was professionally
Some people
trained.
don't-
Her hands alone.
Some people don't understand that some women are very strong. Some women are very, very strong. So don't just look at her because she's a woman. No, she can be very dangerous and kill the
In
man
fact,
too.
why are we even doing this? Jacinta is on the backstage. I wanted to introduce her specially. She is here now.
Oh, yeah.
Use your mouth and ask the question.
no, but you have to introduce especially now. You introduce everybody.
We'll introduce her, Joy. Don't worry. Jacinta, you were saying
Why will he fight her like she is her fellow man? That was too much.
Okay. Did you see the way she punched him?
Yeah.
Just
so. He should take
Even
it.
though
He should
if
take
she
it.
punch, even though if she punch him, he is the man. At least he should give way for her.
People,
you need
listen to
deliverance.
this.
You
Listen to
need
this.
deliverance.
This is the exact
need
problem
deliverance.
we are having in our world today.
Exactly.
Any party, the
No,
man
this
is
one,
a
you
man.
need
He should
deliverance.
take it. He should take
So
it.
the man should be taking the beat.
Abuse the man.
So we are, wait, Meg.
A man
So
is
we are,
known
we
for
are,
peace.
so
A man
so
is
the man
known
is
for peace.
the
When
man
it's
is
too
designed
much,
to be
leave the
beaten up.
house. You can come back later.
He did not say he should stand there and just be beaten. She
Yes,
said,
just leave the house. You will come back later.
Excuse me, excuse me, excuse
Leave the house
me,
and don't come
excuse me,
back home.
excuse everybody, excuse me. People are talking about equality. Men and women are equal, but when it comes to this, the man is a man.
Because when God created a man, he created a woman, he has to put a man to sleep.
You can bring him when
He
God
has to
created
put him
the
to
man.
sleep so that he will bring out the woman before he wakes up.
So he
So
should
when
continue
anything
to
is
sleep with his eyes
happening, let him go to sleep.
"Mm,
He is the God. He is the God. God cannot beat his angel. So the man is the God of the family.
God, can you see?
oh, this is
Jessica, wait.
very interesting."
So you see,
All right?
you see, people. A lot of people have that
Prof is
mentality.
laughing.
A lot of people
I
have.
am laughing.
A lot of people have that mentality that
If a God can beat,
a man,
then if a man can beat his wife, then God can beat.
hold on. So now you agree that a man is God. It's like God.
Yes.
So God can beat.
Oh, okay.
So why is God beating?
Eh.
Great.
Your philosophy here is something new.
That is
I
one
raise
way
my
to
case
look
for
at it.
people to judge it. If people don't judge it, I will raise it.
What?
You heard what she said. If people don't say anything, I will say it.
Go ahead.
She's saying that a man is a man. A man is supposed to take whatever comes to him.
No.
He has wisdom. He has
Doctor, she's even
wisdom how
saying
to
it now. You
follow
are still
it.
telling me no.
No,
She's
no.
using her mouth to say it right now. You are still saying no.
Stand there and
The
be
man has the wisdom. See, we women, we are very easy to deal with. Very easy.
Don't
It
say
is
we.
when a
Say
man
yourself.
refuses
Don't
to
speak
take
for
his
yourself.
place.
Oh. Speak for
You see
yourself.
that
Don't
woman
say
that
we.
was throwing punch like that? Does she look easy to deal with?
What? Okay, if the man did not lay hands on her, this man must have pushed this woman to a certain point before she raises her hand.
no, that's not necessary.
There's no
No,
reason
I
for you to
disagree
do
with that. That's not necessarily
Yeah.
true.
Oh, God.
There's no
You
reason
don't
for a
get
woman
like
to
that
raise
person. See why I
on
keep
both sides.
asking what happened before.
Before
The
then.
reason I keep asking that. What happened before this? This is why I don't like this kind of internet.
Exactly. What
Okay,
happened? But we didn't know what happened.
All right, let me ask. Let me. I want to hear what the doctor have to say about it. Okay, let's assume the man was caught.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Okay.
That's the worst thing, no.
All right,
Yeah.
answer. So how will you
I
react?
didn't get you, sir.
Let's assume the man was caught. That's what
Like
happened.
the
So,
girl.
yeah. So is that justify her to kill
At
him?
all.
or punch him
There's
on
no
his face?
justification. There's no justification
No.
for violence.
So that's why there's no need to even know what happened. Sef. There's no need.
No.
Because
There's a need, but there's no
But
justification.
there's a need
Okay,
because
Jessica,
nothing just happened like that.
Jessica, you said a man is supposed to be a man of peace. Like God.
Why are you looking for?
Hold on.
Yeah.
In that situation, in that scenario, I studied that video multiple times. And in that particular situation, the man cannot run. Number
Yeah.
one, he can't. He's boxed up in a corner. The man cannot communicate. He cannot talk. Have you seen an angry woman? You cannot communicate with an angry woman. The best thing is for you to just, and then excuse yourself. Now,
So you've come back to
the woman is
excuse
professional
yourself.
enough to. In fact, let me tell you people something that has been happening in Nigeria, for example. Nigeria,
Okay.
women want to go and learn taekwondo, how to fight. Yes. If anybody watching now should tell me I'm lying.
Are you seeing any woman that gone to learn taekwondo?
Yeah. They don't learn how to fight. And then you now come, you stay in one corner. Before you know it, you think you are strong. You are like God. You're like God.
Question.
But
Have you seen any Minister Max?
The reason why, one of the reasons why I think women are going, they are basically trending towards self-defense.
Yes.
Could be because of increasing rape,
yes,
increasing kidnapping,
yes,
increasing assault.
yes.
Because something must have triggered that consciousness or that willingness for women to be to learn self-defense. Now, in America, we know this, that most women have a pepper sprayer.
Yeah, mace.
Yes.
Yeah,
why?
Carry one. Yes.
Why? People can't carry it. Why do they carry it?
On the street, not spray it at your husband.
But what I'm trying to say is that, like most of the comments, the verbal abuse. I mean, I was just checking something now about
a lot of comments.
Like verbal assaults. But once there are consequences for even verbal assault, and why is it that? Think about this. Have you noticed this? Why is it that most of our people, when it gets to other countries where the laws are very well implemented and laws are enforced? That's what I was looking for. Why is that same set of people change?
Yes.
In fact, a pastor said something recently. He said, when you see people board airlines outside of Nigeria, that everybody's orderly, everybody's calm, everybody's a gentleman and gentleman. And he said something. He said, once you enter the airspace of our beloved country, something begins to happen in the plane that people become just restless, and everybody gets basically. It is because things like that or that behavior is not punished by some law enforcement.
Yeah.
So what I would say is that when men know that there are enforcement, I appreciate what Mr. Jessica was saying, that okay, even if it's in the church, in the local church, or in the community, as somebody has suggested, that there is a punitive consequence until we have punitive consequences for verbal assault. And that is why when you look at the punishment for verbal assault, for instance, in America, depending on the state, is 1 year in jail, just verbal assault. Now, physical assault actually has, and it's a misdemeanor. So physical assault is at a higher level. So people know that if I just basically verbally abuse somebody, you are risking 1 year in jail. It just makes people to be self-conscious. It creates emotional intelligence. It makes you to be thoughtful before you say something.
Yeah, totally.
Wow. Okay, let's take some comments. We have a lot, and I believe a lot of them came when somebody came and started saying something.
Oh, stop.
We have this comment from Beth, and she says,
"This is why you wait on God's plan." Amen, sister. Amen.
Rachel says,
"The police and legal system do little to nothing to deal with abusers. There are no consequences. If an abused woman attempts to protect herself from the violence, self-defense can result in an arrest and prosecution against the abused woman in her own home. There is just no justice."
Okay, Jacinta is here. Give us emoji.
Bethan said, "If you defend yourself, you go to jail too, because it's pressing harm." Yes.
Oh, Paul is in the house. Everybody, he's laughing emoji. Okay, Rachel Pearl says,
Please, let's answer Emeka's question about handling verbal abuse that has not gone physical. Yes, I was in the middle of answering that before, the river carried us elsewhere. I'm seeing that when there is verbal abuse, there's got to be counseling and there's got to be separation. Once again, like Prof said, there has to be consent. See, we're so used to impunity that the idea of justice bothers us. If someone is abusing another person emotionally or verbally, when it hasn't become physical abuse, I strongly recommend separation. And the only reason they should come back is if the aggressor submits to some sort of behavioral therapy or counseling. That's the only condition under which I would even think of them reconciling. There is no reconciling without justice. There's no reconciliation without justice. So if there's established verbal or emotional abuse, there has to be behavioral counseling.
I have a question for you, doctor.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever quarreled with your husband?
Quarrel? I'm a person of peace, so I don't quarrel with people. But yes, if you mean have you ever had an argument, yes.
No, quarrel, not argument. Quarrel.
What's the difference?
Quarrel is a normal thing that happens in everybody's life. When you disagree. Oh, you call it argument?
Argument now. It's argument.
Okay. Do you know that argument could get to a point where it's looking like verbal abuse?
No.
It depends on the language. It depends on the language.
Hold on. Depending on the languages used.
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Totally agree.
Now, we're talking, and you are telling me something that I do not agree with, right? And I tell you that does not make any sense. You are not making sense. Is that verbal abuse?
Let me tell you how you can rephrase that sentence.
No, don't rephrase. Don't rephrase it.
I'm telling you.
Let's begin with the question first. Is that verbal abuse?
No.
Okay. Some people will think that's verbal abuse.
No.
Yeah.
You're not making sense.
I don't want us to enlarge the matter and thereby dilute the effect of it. Now, let me tell you something. Something my husband and I.
The reason why I'm bringing this up is because when you make a blanket statement, like if you are in a marriage and you go through verbal abuse, there should be separation and don't come back until. You have to break it down. A lot of
somebody has to knows it. A third party has to say this is what this is. That's what I'm saying. I'm not advocating that just hop off and run into the sunset. But let me finish my sentence. Something my husband and I established when we first got married was that there will be no raising of voices and there will be no name calling, regardless of how warm the argument becomes. See, if you stick with just those two simple rules, there are things you do not say to a person you love, regardless of how much they are annoying you. There's a sort of one adult with someone you love.
Like not just love, somebody you love, you have to go. It goes with respect.
Yes.
Because if you respect somebody, you're not going to call the person you are a fool or you are crazy or you are mad. All those kind of those languages cannot come out of your mouth because you can't see that person that way because you have respect for the person. That's the reason why I say again. Let me finish. That's the reason why I say again. If the two of you are not compatible, you will know.
Yeah.
Don't force yourself. Oh, it's not by force. It's not working. Do not force yourself. And don't say, God saw a pastor saw it in the dream that is my husband. Is it the one that is going to be in the marriage?
You know the kind of things trigger me.
That one. I don't even like that one at all. I don't like that one at all. But my own thing is this, right? This is my own thing. A lot of people do not really understand what constitutes verbal abuse and what constitutes abuse in general. They just see that big word abuse and run with it as a whole blanket statement, but don't even know that, hey, so a lot of people will tell you here in America, you're talking to somebody and your tone is a little bit higher than theirs. They will call it abuse.
Yeah, because it's intimidating. You should not try to intimidate someone.
It's intimidating. What if my voice is louder than yours? Naturally.
In trouble, I'm telling you.
Naturally, my voice is louder than yours, so I'm intimidating you too.
No, okay, you know what you are saying, and you know a tone of voice you will not adopt with your non-Nigerian colleagues. So don't let's split hairs about that.
Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going with comments. Let's keep going with comments.
Okay, let's okay, get that.
Uzoma says,
Summer says, Jacinta, you are so funny.
definitely.
Rachel, exactly. So some tweaked out man is trying to kill you, strangle you, terrorize you. If you shoot him to stop the violence, the victim goes to jail. Not right. I can see how that is possible. I can.
Why would you shoot him in the first? Why would you shoot him in a dangerous place?
Take moments. There's no guarantee in where you may end up shooting him. I can see what she's saying.
You cannot throw your life away because of somebody that you're not compatible with. I'm still going back to that compatibility.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, next comment. Kudos Abayomi says,
we are first human. We all have trigger points, and sometimes it is hard to walk away for a man if the outlet is not available. You make one rather than go to jail. Make one.
Exactly.
Make one.
Bro Steve is in the house, he says.
Society or the world says we're equal. The Bible says, what the Bible says is that God is the head of man and man is the head of woman. Remember, man has to submit to God and any woman has no problem following. Okay, I think he's still writing.
Bethan says.
Okay, life is spiritual and there's nothing new under the sun. Let the church say amen.
Timitaya says.
Self-defense. Okay, Auntie, are you going to explain that a little more?
Yeah, Bethan furthermore says.
People need deliverance.
Kid Bro Steve says.
Okay, very good. However, if both are single, respect is warranted from both sexes, and the godly upbringing should be apparent. Okay, you lost me, bro. You just lost me.
Yeah, me too. Kudos says.
Self-defense skills is not a problem as long as it is not weaponized. There should not be any verbal abuse in any sexes, let alone amen. Amen. That was saying. Remember, what is verbal abuse to one may not be verbal abuse to another. That's why there has to be standards.
Yeah, Timothy says.
There are things you don't even say to another human being. Thank you. Basic respect.
Yep. Okay. So, Jessica is here for a reason. But before we continue, we want to introduce. I want to bring up a very special someone, and she's so special that just listening to her preach once in a while just is huge. It's huge, and this is in person of Bishop Hightower. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you.
Bishop in the building.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here with you all.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the show, man. Welcome. So our question that we've been asking throughout the show for today is this: does the church encourage domestic abuse? Does the church encourage domestic abuse? So we've had some yes and some no's and some yes and no.
Okay, before you continue, Emeka, could you check your phone, please?
Okay.
I just sent you a message. Thank you. Carry on.
Go ahead, Bishop, please.
Well, and it's a twofold question, I believe, because yes, the church does send subliminal lines concerning domestic abuse. Number one, I believe they encourage it, the church, and not the church at large, but there's a great percentage of the church and church leaders who are in denial, and they don't take it serious enough when a parishioner, a woman or a man, come to them and say to them, I'm being bullied, I'm being sexually abused, I'm being harassed. And sometimes leaders who don't take it serious, they just write it off with, oh, we'll pray about it. You know, but it requires more than prayer. Any type of abuse, you know, it requires sometimes getting the police involved and the courts. And then I say yes in one light, and then I say no, the church doesn't encourage any type of abuse, because there are pastors like myself uh, who will um, who will really exhaust ourselves to get help for anyone who is being abused, because abuse shouldn't be tolerated, in any manner, whether it's children abusing their parents, parents abusing children, spouses abusing spouses, sexual harassment in the workplace, sexual harassment in our churches. No, no, we should do something about it. I don't, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the church getting actively involved. I think we all should get actively involved, because
Yeah.
it's a serious matter.
Yeah.
It's very serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Because the reason why this is actually a heated topic is because we lost a minister of music in Nigeria who was going through sexual abuse. Not sexual abuse, my bad. Domestic violence at home,
Mhm.
where her husband would beat her, and and she would tell her friends and beg them not to tell the pastor, and the friends
Mm.
would actually not tell the pastor. So, in such an event, how would you advise someone to um, go forward, like your advice on someone going forward to let the pastor know if the person is going through such an abuse?
Well, when you have a friend and your friend confides in you, you have to take that very personal, because when you're a friend to somebody and they trust you with information, and they ask you, please do not tell anybody, including the pastor, about this. I don't think even a friend should break that type of trust with a friend. I think a friend who loves a friend will go out of his or her way to get help for that friend. There is, as I said, there's the police authority, there are the courts, and if you really, really love that friend or the person, they're really friendly, really tight with that person,
Yeah.
I would even suggest that they hire some type of private investigation to protect that friend. If they feel that that friend, their life is being threatened, yeah. If she doesn't want, or he doesn't want their pastor to know, fine and well. We will not tell the pastor, but we have to do something to secure your safety. We're gonna do something. We're gonna do something. Yeah.
So by so doing, I believe the mistake there was nothing was done to secure the safety of this particular person. Rather, the confidentiality took precedence over safety, which, of course, in the medical field, that's bad. Safety comes first. Priority is always safety. You know. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. You've heard it from our wonderful bishop in the house, Jennifer Hightower. Thank you very, very much. Thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate you. Thank you very much, Bishop. We would definitely have you on an exclusive where you're going to have an exclusive with our wonderful professor in the house. Let me just introduce him. This is this. I don't even. I'm short of words. He has been a blessing to the show. Professor Christon Adedoyin. He is he's a theologian. He's a theological professor, and yeah, we would have you back on the show where we have exclusive with both of you side by side, and because we would want to know more about the church structure with effect to the community and the society that we're in. Because I believe it's high time we begin to work on unifying the church and the community. There is beginning to become that like that divide is beginning to come in, and we would need to fix that. Thank you very much, Bishop, for coming on the show. We appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me. God bless you all.
God
Thank
bless
you.
Happy,
you.
Bless you, Bishop.
happy Passover. Happy Holy Weekend. The Lord
Same
bless
to
you
you,
all.
Amen.
Bishop.
Amen.
Shalom.
To you.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Mhm. All right, welcome back. Thank you, Samson, for that exclusive. That was nice. So, before we want to hear from our wonderful funny friend Jacinta.
Now wait, before Jezita come in, There was something you said about the division in the church. Like
Yes.
somebody was telling me, pastors are fighting pastors now in Nigeria. And they were asking me, what do you think about it? I said to them, it's God's will. God is trying to confuse them so that the people will understand that these pastors are not God, they are men. They can
Hmm.
misbehave.
Hmm.
Just like the Tower of Babel, confuse them so that the people will not think they can get to God. Like, Tower of Babel, they are going to God. Because if I allow these people, they're going to do what they're not supposed to do. That's exactly what's happening in Nigeria, confusing them because they are beginning to act like God. People are seeing them as God. Now we are beginning to see that they are men, they can misbehave.
Yeah.
Okay. So before Jacinta come on, let's just take these comments real quick. Uzoma says, is there a condition for divorce spiritually? Prof, let me de facto that to you first. I
Yes,
know.
thank you, Sister Uzoma. I think the condition is specifically stated where Jesus was actually asked that same question.
Mhm.
And he said the only condition is when people are caught in adultery. Now, we have to now operationalize that and say, is there a difference between divorce and separation?
Mm.
Now,
Mm.
if the Bible explicitly and clearly says, as we read in the Old Testament and Jesus reinforces in the New Testament, that God hates divorce. As a matter of fact, I think it goes back to spiritual maturity. Spiritual maturity in the sense that, okay, if people are not compatible, like my brother has actually said,
Yeah.
we can actually work towards basically helping such couple to see if they could be separated for some time. They are still legally married, but when they are separated for some time, we bring in all the interventions possible. Intervention could be behavioral. And one thing I've been noticing in our culture is this: when you talk about going for counseling or going for therapy or going for some forms of behavioral, you know, I mean, what we call, cognitive behavioral therapy or some other family therapy, people think they have a demon. We have to basically take away all these ideas of going for therapy or going for coaching or going for more learning as being demonic and as being problematic. So, Sister Uzoma, the way I'm going to answer your question is this: the condition for divorce, scripturally well articulated, is sexual immorality, adultery.
Mhm.
However, let's
Mhm.
look at other situations where Jesus explicitly and clearly told us about settling disputes. Because what leads to physical or verbal assault is basically, let's look at it, it's disagreements, it's
Yeah.
misunderstanding.
Mm.
So what did Jesus say? Jesus said, okay, like he told Peter, forgive, 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 forgive. And then when the apostles were looking at this matter, they also said, okay, report this person to a church member. Report to second time. And if that after the third or fourth time, they know that this person is actually not a believer, it's almost like an infidel. So what I'm trying to say is this: the system is there in the scripture for us to deal with what I would call human misunderstanding, human incompatibility, and I believe that divorce would be the last stage. By the time a person goes for therapy, because let's not be sincere with ourselves. Marriage is one institution that most people are not fully prepared for. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, somebody said something that marriage is the only institution where you get a certificate when you start the course or the program.
That's true.
That in every other human endeavor, you get a certificate at the completion,
Of the
but
cause.
you get the certificate at the inception.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh
what
yeah.
does that mean? We all are work in progress. We all need to, and I think this situation is calling for further introspection in each home. My brothers and my sisters, let's ask ourselves this question. Apart from the day people went to church to basically solemnize their marriages, how
Mm.
many families have actually can boldly, I'm not saying they aren't, can boldly say, every year I invest this amount of knowledge into my marriage to be a better husband, to be a better wife, and to be a better family.
Mm. Mm. Hmm.
Even at my even I mean, my wife and I still subject ourselves to mentors that, I mean, they sent us a marriage profile, which we completed, and we're meant to meet with them to actually tell us, okay, how do you improve on your communication? It's a lifelong learning. So this assumption that, oh, because you're a graduate in the college, or you're a good businessman or a businesswoman, and therefore you can handle a marriage, is absolutely, we have to begin to challenge those things. So I would say to my sister Uzoma that the only condition for divorce in the scripture is adultery. But in order not to go that extent, can people consider separation for a while? And within that space of separation, things can be worked out. People can go through therapy, they can go through counseling, they can go through training, and then we can let them probably come back and see if what they've done, as if that intervention actually works. That's the way I would answer that.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Samson, if you want to add something to that?
Yeah, you see, like when it comes to asking them to go for counseling and all that stuff, it's good. But 95% of that doesn't really work because who that person is that person. When it comes to, especially if the person is abusive. If somebody is just, if the person is a crazy person, the person should be, he should be alone. He should live by himself, especially the man. Some of these men are very crazy. Some of them, they are so aggressive, and some women too. They are crazy.
You for not add woman see now.
Wait now, make I
You
finish.
for not add woman see.
Because because so that you can
Especially
jump
the
on
man,
it.
especially the man. That is my problem.
We need
Everything
to,
is on the
we need
man.
to, we need to,
Do you know
like
the
my,
amount of stress? Do you know the amount of stress men carry on a daily basis?
yeah, that's
Now,
true. But
now, if for me, I believe in left and right. Handle everybody evenly. If what is good for you is good for you, it should be good for me. If it's not good for you, it is not good for me. There's no reason why, like someone said, because you are the man, you should take an abuse, but the woman would not take it. If a
who
man
is so
does it
wrong?
to the woman,
Jevita.
if a woman does it, if a woman does it to the man, if a woman does it to the man should still stay. I'm a man, I will stay in the marriage. But a man does it to the woman should leave the home because the man is an abuser.
And let me tell you something. Like I wrote on my page, I said, a man or a woman, don't be afraid to divorce a man or a woman that is abusive. Don't be afraid to divorce them. Like some people, when they hear the divorce, hey, Pastor Sam, how can you use that word divorce? Divorce. I don't want the person to die. I don't want him or she to die. That is me. That's my opinion. You can say, okay, the person can manage and stay. For me, it's not. I am not part of it because
There's something that Prof said that I want to actually subscribe to. And that is steps. Steps. In what sense? What do you do when something has been done? Now, everything should be handled based on levels of severity.
Yeah.
If it's something that both of you cannot see eye to eye to something, please, it's not a reason enough to divorce that person because you're not seeing eye to eye on that matter. It's not. We are all human beings. We are not perfect. We are different people. We were born from two different people, not the same. Even people that were born from the same umbilical cord will still have differences and will still argue and not see eye to things. So, steps based on severity. If the guy is fighting you, beating you, please, don't stay. Don't stay. But all this one I'm
I
hearing
was
you don't
waiting for
agree.
you. I was waiting for you to
All
just
this
finish.
one, all this one I'm here. Don't worry, Samson. I know my stuff.
Thank God you
I
added
know,
the
I
beating.
know, I know
Because I
my
was
stuff,
telling them
and
they brush
I
your
know
sister,
people
make I don't
waiting
like
for
the
me.
quiet.
I know people
Remember
waiting
they
for
brush
me.
your sister.
I know people waiting for me. They are there wearing eyeglass, waiting for me. You see, but you just have a simple argument. Please, it's not grounds for divorce.
Oh no, that one is different. That one is
Like Prof,
completely different.
like Prof said, there are steps to things. Seek for professional help. You can separate for a little bit, talk things over. Try to see if you can walk. But excuse me, at the rate which things are going, with the undefined words of divorce, abuse, all these things, people would lose their marriages like this when they are not supposed to. People will give people the reason to leave them when they're not supposed to. So
Not
please,
everyone.
let's apply wisdom to it. Say that again, Jacinta.
Not everyone will lose their marriage. Not
People,
everyone.
people. Did you hear?
Not every
Did
people
you
will
hear
lose their marriage.
people? Did you hear me say everybody?
You say people. That's why I'm saying not every people
People
will.
is
Some.
Jacinta, people is not relative to numbers. Okay, you can
Okay.
define group, you can define people based on how you want to define them. So people. That's why I did not say everyone will lose their marriage. That's an absolute word. I will not use an absolute word. Okay?
Mhm.
So, I want Jacinta to let's run through this question and through all these comments, and then we'll go with Jacinta. Temitayo says self-defense was in response to the reason more females are learning karate and boxing, etc. Yes, I agree with you. That's true. Kid Rusty says some church leaders are not equipped to deal with today's social illness, such as verbal, physical, and sexual abuse. Very true. So I actually think that some church leaders should actually go for training from professionals.
I agree with you 100%. And that is why, like I said earlier on, when I started out with this, I said, in all fairness, in all balance, the reason why we keep bringing the church in is because it is the most proximate institution that people have.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the way we talk about church in the public space in Nigeria is just because it seems to be the only institution that people, derive hope, joy, meaning, and some forms of flourishing from. So I agree with you, sir, that I'm a firm believer that within the church itself there are professionals, there are psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, counselors, mental health folks who can actually help people. Again and again, when you ask an average Christian going into marriage how many series of lectures, books, or preparation they've gotten or been subjected to marriage, it is very, very, very tiny and minuscule.
Yeah.
How would you want to go into a lifelong relationship and you are telling me you've got, most churches, very good churches probably would do a 3 month program prior to marriage. 3 months for a lifelong journey.
A lifelong journey.
Do you understand? So that is why I believe very strongly, like Cripple Steve said, that churches are not equipped. Yes, they are not equipped. But I think it is incumbent on the church to acknowledge, because one of the things I realized about the churches, which we do, which I don't think is helping out, is the church is, I believe very strongly, the church is where we learn about the Christ.
Oh yeah.
The church is not where you learn about business, psychology, self-help. So at the end of the day, we are jack of all trades and master of none.
Yeah.
I believe the church should be able to identify in any country in the world, Nigeria, America, everywhere, these are faith-based counselors. These are Christian psychiatrists, Christian psychologists, Christian marriage therapists.
I like
so
that.
Before you come to our church for solemnization of your marriage, can you show us the trainings, the trainings, the lessons, the education you've gone through? Because guess what? If a couple goes through a Christian psychiatrist, psychologist, or family therapist, they may actually have picked up some signals that this brother seems to have anger problem. Or this sister is very, very quarrelsome. And then they tell you that the church that, look, this is what we've seen. You guys are not compatible, like Pastor Sam Soft rightly said, and therefore they can stop things in the track. So in fairness to the churches, honestly, I think churches should hands off some things that they are not equipped to do. Let Christian psychiatrists, Christian marriage therapists, Christian social workers, Christian counselors let people be sent to them. Prepare them. Let them know this journey is a very, very bumpy journey.
The church is actually one place where we have all professions, but we do not utilize them. We don't utilize them in the sense that, hey, in the church, we have engineers, we have builders, we have counselors, we have all these people. But you would not hear a pastor say, when a person come to meet them to complain, you will not hear a pastor refer that person to the church member who is a professional at what they do. So I think, yes, you're right. It's high time we set up a department in the church where we'll have a list of people in different fields, people in different fields. And when you have a problem, a member comes to you and complains to you, oh, my husband beats me. Of course, what else do you expect the pastor to do? The pastor will do what he's trained to do. Pray about it. Pray about it. He will talk to you about it and pray about it. Because he's not, most pastors did not even go to theological school. I'm sorry. They were called. They were called. By who? Only God knows. But at the end of the day, if we can establish those departments in churches, that's going to help. It's going to help because, say, for example, Sister Jacinta comes to me and I'm the pastor of a church. Oh, Pastor Max.
Sister or Jacinta is better.
Say, for example, Sister Jacinta decides to get married and she comes to me, oh, Pastor Max, my husband is beating me, he's doing this. I'll be like, you know what, Sister Jacinta? I would follow you up personally. We would talk about this, but in the meantime, tell me about your problem. You talk about your problem. Okay, you know what? This is something that I cannot handle alone on my own. And I would not push you to take it to God to handle on his own, because this is something we are supposed to handle, asking God for grace. So how about this? I will refer you to this professional. He's very professional. He's trained. Confidentiality is his watchword. So you do this and this will help you. Then you're taking it off. Oh, you went to tell the pastor to, oh, honey, I want us to seek help from this person who is a professional at this job. Then the problem will be lesser, because a lot of people that abuse other people would feel a certain way if the pastor of my God, you told the pastor, and I'm also a pastor, that you want him to fire me, things like that. So yeah, I think we should. I think if churches would do that, that would be great.
And then one other thing, sir, quickly, is that we don't. I mean, I agree with you 100% that we can have departments within the church. The only problem I have with that is this: there is so much familiarity. You need somebody who is objective and professional. I would rather prefer that church member would have a private practice outside of the church. We can have a supplemental one in the church, which I call it supplemental in the sense that, okay, let it be the first level. And at that level will be an outsider who is objective.
What I meant by department is that on a sheet of paper, the pastor has names of people, members in the church that have their practices, professionals. He will list them based on their departments. On his sheet of paper. Not that the church will open department for them, because that will be something that can never will hardly be done.
Yeah.
You know? But if he has a spreadsheet or something that will list them based on their department, family therapy, this one, this one, it's easier to go immediately. Okay, who can take care of this? Oh, this person will do a better job, and then it's easy. So that's what I meant by that. Not that the church should create, department on its own.
Let me quickly add something. If you look at this story of our sister we were talking about, Sister Osinachi, did you realize something is a consistent denominator? Our producer heard about it. Our friends in church heard about it. The choir people heard about it. Our twin sister heard about it. So we have at least 4 layers of people who heard about it. Guess what? If that had been in America, all those 4 people would have been now complicit in our situation.
Oh yeah. Accessories.
Exactly. So that's exactly what I'm saying. That until people are basically reoriented, and then we have to understand that in Nigeria, there is what is called the Violence Against People's Prohibition Act, VAP, of 2015. When people know that, I believe that when the producer had, in fact, as matter of fact, I was hearing a very popular Nigerian pastor trying to clarify the air, who said the producer saw when this man slapped his wife. Under no circumstances, if we were to be in a place like America, what would have happened instantly? is that that person has to report to the police. Because now, when this situation as has happened, it was to be in America, that person is complicit. We've seen many cases in America where coaches abuse athletes in colleges, and people who knew about it and did not tell the right authorities are now being charged with complicity. So that's what I'm saying. In this sister's case, at least 4 different people, at least 4 or 5 people knew about it. They didn't tell the pastor. That's why I said, in fairness to the pastor, you can't blame the church. But those who knew about it, did they go ahead to tell the police? Did they go ahead to tell these sisters significant orders? Did they even do anything to restrain this brother? Because we don't know how much powerlessness, they call something land powerlessness. That sister must have basically been so devastated, abused, and traumatized that she was powerless. So the fact that she was telling people and begging them not to report to the pastor meant she wanted them to help in any way they could. She was trying to get help, but she didn't want help in a way that,
she would be responsible for.
That would backfire on her. But when you look at it psychoanalytically, she wanted help, but she didn't want a help that would be traceable to her and would make the husband reinforce it.
Cry for help.
She was crying for help. So that's why I said, when we have a system whereby people know that you can report cases like this, and when you report them, there are going to be consequences. And if you know and you don't report, a friend is being abused, a child is being abused, a spouse has been abused, and you know about it and you don't report, and there's a consequence for complicity, things will change.
This is actually a huge point you just brought up, because I think I was talking with Jacinta about this when we're prepping, when she was talking about the show. When was that? Where I told her that the people that she told, she was indirectly crying for help. Even though she would say, don't tell the pastor. She specifically gave you one exception. Don't tell the pastor. What about
police?
So, exactly. So you decided to take friendship, privacy more than security and safety.
That's right.
That's not good. That's not good. So without wasting too much time, Rachel says, how many pastors of church or church leaders are even educated enough to handle complaints of abuse? Questions to Prof. Does the theology school include courses or sessions that educate people on these issues, or is it just the Bible?
That's a very powerful question. So what is happening now in theological seminaries is that they have what is called pastoral counseling. So pastoral counseling courses are courses where pastors basically are taught the counseling in a professional way, because they realize that most people now want pastors to counsel them. They don't want unbelievers to counsel them. And now there are courses also that deals with, what we call church problems. In fact, there are books now that over time have basically summarized what they call common issues that people bring up. So to answer your question, my sister Rachel, the theological school actually now has expanded social issues, family issues, community-based issues. And the good thing is this, like Brian Maker rightly said, the theological schools are now telling people that if you can't handle this, there are resources in your environment you can explore. There are resources in your environment you can go to help you. So they realize that it's not all Bible. They realize that we are humans with feelings, with senses, with challenges, and therefore what they've done now, for instance, the theological school I went to, we were encouraged to read materials outside of just the Bible. We read materials written by psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, business, for instance, management, leadership. And of course, my own concern is this, and I think it was alluded to. Pastors should not feel threatened that a professional is being consulted in the church. I believe the role of the pastor is to build people to be like Christ. If you are not called to, one thing I don't like is a pastor teaches you about business, about Jesus, about buying a house, about
everything.
about everything. You're not jack of all. What's a master? You're not jack of all trades.
True.
So so to answer that question, my sister, yes, theological schools are beginning to include courses. As a matter of fact, they're now teaching courses on diversity. They are teaching courses on how to handle sexuality and gender identity. In fact, as a matter of fact, we talked like when I was doing my theological education, we talked about the role of technology, ethics, bioethics, and a lot of social issues. So it's a broad spectrum of content, but they always tell us that defer to the professionals who have invested more time and resources in specific areas of knowledge.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. So, okay. Jacinta is busy right now.
I'm here.
Okay. So, Jacinta has a little story. It's a serious story, but she has a story to tell us, and this is where we'll jump in and then give our takes on it, and then let people know what we think. So, Jacinta, over to you. So before Jacinta begins, I want to introduce Jacinta, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you that have been long enough on the show, whenever we do this.
From the street, live with Jacinta.
Yep, that's the Jacinta right there. She's our person that she conducts our interviews from Nigeria. Welcome to the show, Jacinta. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Minister Max. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Thank you I'm so grateful to be here, and I also want to say a big thank you to Minister Sam Soft. I always say he is the one that gives me this platform, and I call him my daddy. I'm so grateful, Dad. Thank you so much. And
don't let me go back and tell everybody what we're discussing with Prof at the beginning of the show. When you were asking where's your daddy, and we told, and we're like, Prof was like, Samsoft cannot be your real daddy, except if he's using his football age.
He's my real daddy. Thank you so much, Prof. It was nice meeting you. I think I enjoy so much of your, can I call it teaching, or so much of your contribution. They're well enlightening and so encouraging. I have something little that I would just want to drop, because when the death of Osinachi came out, I was touched because her story was something similar to my story. Sometimes people feel that when you don't speak out, it is not easy to speak out. It is not easy to speak out. It is very, very difficult to speak out. You can tell the whole people around you, but you will not want to say it to someone that will come to your rescue. Sometimes it's as if you've been charmed. It takes the grace of God to pull you out. I was in a relationship like 10 years in that relationship. And I was at the age of 15 when I got pregnant. And then, our parents then, when a girl child is pregnant and then she's being dropped out of school, they feel that pride, and then they feel that it's a shameful thing, and then they will have to push you out of the house, take you to the man's house, the man who impregnated you, if he says yes. In some cases, some men will not even admit to it. But in my own case, the man said, yes, I know her. I was the one who impregnated her. And then my father said, well, so you have to go and stay in his house till you put to bed. And I was just in my SS2. I was 15. And then my dad and his elder brother took me without anything, just what I was putting on, and they took me to the house. And the sign was so clear that they didn't see it. The only thing they wanted was just go. They took me there. The moment they got to the house, the mother of the guy left, everybody left, and I was left with my dad, his brother, and the father of this guy. And then the man said, well, I used to see her with my son. So if she's pregnant, the child belongs to us. Leave her here till she put to bed. My dad then they left me and they went back, and I began the process. Then immediately the guy left me barely 2 months and traveled to Abuja. And then I was there and trying to do everything by myself. A 15-year-old girl will sleep alone. I don't even know the symptoms. I don't know how it is, but whenever it is, I started communicating with the father of, that's the grandfather, the man's father. He became very close, and then we talk everything. I helped him to go to the bank. I started saving his money and everything. So he kind of liked me. So even though if I have any pains anywhere, I will go to him. And then he will like kind of, talk to me. So the process began, and then one day I put to bed. I didn't even know I was in labor. I just entered to sleep, and then I noticed I felt waist pain, and I relaxed. When I noticed I got myself back, I stood up, I left my room, and I knocked on his door. I told him, I said, my waist is paining me, and he came out. And then he wake everybody. I trekked to the hospital.
Wow.
Yeah. I trekked to the hospital. So when I got to the hospital, they say, she wants to put to bed. And I didn't know anything before, the baby came out. And the process began. My dad told my mom, say, go and bring her back. Now she has put to bed. My mom said, no. Why will I bring her back? Let her stay there. And I was there. I didn't know anything. Before I had the first child. Before I had a second child. And then before I had the third child.
Wow.
I don't know how to like monitor when you are not supposed to take in, or maybe how to know if this time you are supposed to meet a man or not. I don't know all of those things. Well, they taught us in school, but the process and the time that they were teaching us was when I followed. So I couldn't get the proper teaching on how to monitor. You should follow up your cycle or not. So as the pregnancy were coming in, I was just taking it, and before I landed at number 3.
Wow.
And in all my pregnancies, whenever I am pregnant, this man in question, any little thing, boom, I will just get a slap on my face. Any little thing, I'll just get a slap on my face. And I was not a talking type. So I keep quiet. Even whenever he hits me, I'll just go and cry, and then I'll keep quiet. I started receiving the beating from the first child. Even the second child, he has to he hit me, and it's like he hit me on my waist, and then I slept. But in the middle of the night, I felt like I was peeing. And when I stood up, I saw blood. And the next thing, they rushed me to a midwife, and she said, it's labor. But it was a result to what he did to me in the afternoon, which I could not even tell anybody. And before I was there, the woman kept me in her house, and I gave birth to that girl in her house, and I was bleeding. I didn't even know. And then after then, before I would say Jack, the third boy came in. That was where I had the worst of him. I don't even know what would bring the fight. Any little thing, I will hear slap, and I will hear beat, and I will hear this thing. When I put to bed, I got a boy on my eye, and he didn't even take me to the hospital. And I was sick. So it got to a point, I felt like, okay, I'm dying here. So before then, my dad has, on the second child, my dad came and took me back. He came and took me back home, and he said, okay, now come back. You have 2 girls. Relax, and let's take care of you. But when he took me back, the insults that I will receive from him every day, in my mind now, I prefer the beating I was getting. Because the way my dad would talk to me would make me, I would think of let me just end it. And one day when I told him, I said, this is becoming too much. I want to go back. It's better this man should beat me than the way you talk to me. And he said to me, the day you leave my house, you cross this place to Abuja, you will not get to Abuja, and they will bring you back dead. That's my dad speaking. And I now met his elder brother. He said, go. And I took my children and I left. So when I got to Abuja, I now called him. I said, well, you said I would die, but I'm in Abuja. He was so annoyed, to a point that even when I had the last pregnancy, I refused to tell him. And he said, let him see how I would do and put to bed. And it was like a curse. And that was where my trouble started. And then it got to a point with this man hitting me every day. And I won't say anything because I don't know who to talk to. I don't have friends. The only person that was with me was my younger sister, who was just next to me. And she would cry whenever she sees this. And the next thing, she would call my parents, say she will die here if you don't come to bring her back. And my dad would say, let her die so that we can bury her. And I was there. Then when I had the third pregnancy, I landed in the hospital. I could remember 2007, October 18th, when I checked I went for the scan. The boy was 2.5 kg. But when it was time, November, but when it was time for me to put to bed, it jumped to 4.9 and I could not push. My pelvis became so tight. So now they said, okay, you are going in for an operation. And I said, no. I said, I don't want to go for an operation because I was scared. And I was all alone in that hospital. The man would just come, breathe, see me, and go back. So I was there. And then one day, my mom cried to my dad, forgive this girl, let her put to bed. And my dad now called me and said, okay, I've forgiven you and I've prayed with you. Go and put to bed. And then he said, but before my dad could say that, 7 days I was bleeding, non-stop blood. So at the last point, the day my dad prayed with me, in the morning, he called me about 5 a.m. He said, today I free you. Go and put to bed. If it is true operation, you will go and come out alive. The baby will come out alive. And I said, amen. Amen. But while I was in that hospital, all I was saying, God is faithful. I keep on saying those words. And at that point, when it was time for them to take me to the theater, I gave up. I bleeded till I gave up. So I saw myself leaving the hospital. And before I left the hospital bed, I saw 4 nurses in white. They surrounded my bed and we started singing, we give glory to the Lord, the great. So I left with them because the song pushed me and I left. So they were going and I was in their middle. Nobody was talking to me, but we were going. And then because the previous child, I bleeded, a nurse told me to get an IV the next time I am going to the hospital, so that when the bleeding comes up, they will give me the IV so that it will stop the bleeding. So I went to the hospital, I went to the pharmacist and I got it too. So those IVs were in my purse. Then when it was time for them to take me in, when I must have passed away, I had them where I was, saying, we have gone all around, but we cannot see the IV. The pharmacies are closed. And when these things were happening, hospitals were on strike. So I went to, I left the city of Abuja to Nasarawa State. So there was nowhere they would get the IV. So I had where I was going with the nurses, and I tapped them at the back. I said, there is something they are talking about, which I have in my box, that I need to go down. Mm-hmm. So all of that, I put to bed to that boy, and then it was time for him to give me blood. He refused. He didn't come to the hospital.
Wow.
To give me the blood. But something happened. A man died, and then the younger brother was in the hospital. So the blood they took for that guy became my match, and that was what saved me. So it was when I came back from the hospital, that was where the main abuse started. The main abuse started. The wound on my belly was still fresh, and this man would not even care if I've given birth to a newborn baby. No food, nothing. I will have to go out to get water by myself. I will have to do everything. And whenever I say anything, he would tell me that if you want, get your things and leave my house. You have nowhere to go. And of a truth, when I look inwards, I have nowhere to go, and I will sit. And any little thing, it will hit me. And when the whole thing, when he pushed me to a point was where I don't know what happened. He just came back from work, and I was seated outside with the people in my compound. And the next thing, I just saw someone whipping me with cane at the back. And I'm like, what happened? So the people, my neighbors were like, what happened? He said, nobody should involve themselves. I said, what happened? Was whipping me with cane. So what I did was to defend myself. I stood up, and there was a stone. So I raised the stone, and I flinged the stone. So there was a man that was seated down there. He held me, said, Jacinta, stop. I said, but what happened? So me that I don't know what happened, I now left the scene. The moment I stepped into the house, he followed me. And the next thing, I just hear palm on my neck. So I would want to defend myself. So I now turned and I took the pistol. And when I wanted to hit him the pistol, his stepbrother ran into our middle. The pistol hit him at his back. At that point, I dropped it and I left. I'm like, what happened? The brother was asking what, he couldn't say anything. And then this thing continues. The next day, I am this one person, as if when things happen, I don't take it to mind. Then the next day, you see me talking and laughing again. Until this abuse continues to a point that to take care of these children's welfare will be a problem. I will have to work. So I have to get a job and start working becomes a problem. I must not work. I have to stay at home. And I said, no, I can't stay at home. You can't cater for these children. To pay school fees is a problem. And I started working. So where I was working, they noticed I was doing good. And then they give me a bus. So when I resume 9 a.m., they bring me back when it is 1 a.m. And that 1 a.m., when I come back, I will receive serious beating. Yes, because when I want to work. So my daughter one day wakes up and asks me, when will this fight stop? And then because of that anger, I said to her, I said, maybe when one person will die and the other one will go to court. So it got to a point, I started praying to God to separate us. But before then, before God came to separate me and him, he left the house one certain day for like 3-4 days. And I'm not working then. So like, these children have not eaten. I have a 3-year-old child. I have a 5-year-old child. I have an 8-year-old daughter. These people have not eaten. And then I would go around to just borrow things here. And it was too much. Nobody could give me again. And then reluctantly, he walked into the house. And I said to him, I said, well, you left for 3 days. You have not given us food. The children are hungry. And he turned and said to me that if you cannot stay, move back to your father's house. After all, you don't have anywhere to go. So at that point, I was ready for anything. And I stepped out of the house. And I said, well, you have to give us money today. I've borrowed and I'm tired of borrowing. So today you have to give us money. For 4 days, you've not been around. So we need something to eat. And he said to me that when I'm tired, pack your things and go to your father's house. And at this point, I walked to the front of his car. And then he wanted to drive. The next thing I said, no, you cannot drive. You have to give us money for food. He said, no, I shouldn't stop him. I said, no. And the next thing, he now revised back and put on throttle to fire to use the car to climb me. And then the moment I saw him coming on that speed, I dodged. And then I saw a huge of blocks packed somewhere where people were building. So what I would do was I just use my 2 hands and I jagged the block. I jagged the block on the floor and I flicked it. And then the blocks break the windscreen of his car. So he could not move. And then he stopped. And then he came down. At that point, I was ready to die. Because seeing me with 3 kids, no food, and someone is telling me, pack your things and go to your father's house. At that point, I said, it's either you give us food today or you die. And the moment I did that, it came out. I was having matches in my hand. I said, it's either I light up this car, the both of us to go down, or one person go down. So what he did, he drove the car back home, parked it, and then took the back house and ran out of the house. He didn't give us money. Now, where he was working, I would never go to his job to report him. I keep quiet. So I noticed that it's something that this guy wants me to die in this place. So I begin to cry to God. I said, if this place that I am is not giving glory to you, separate us. So no, even though the separation, when it comes, I could not just leave because I don't even know where to go. But what God did was, first of all, he was a very arrogant and a proud man. So he had a beef with his boss, and the boss's wife said they should sack that man. So when they sacked him, they gave us a house. So they collected their house, they collected the car, and everything was collected, and it asked us to leave the premises in 2 weeks. But before that happened, I was praying to God, and then I had an encounter. Then I wake up one morning, I wanted to open the door, and then a light hit me. So when that light hit me, I fell down, and I saw a face appear with blood, and he said to me, "You have been committing fornication." Wow. And I say, how? The next thing is like my thought was played before me on the screen. How when I was child, I saw it physically. Everything I started at the age of 15 to 22, then it was played for me. And I cried out. For 3 days, I could not speak. So after then, his job was taking 2 weeks to leave the house. And then I said to him, I said, what do we do? He said to me, I don't know. Do whatever you want to do. So I called my dad. I took the children to my father's house so that we could put up somewhere else. And then my father called him and said, these children are here. What happened? He said to my father, I don't know if the children are in your house. My father said, so come and take them away. My dad called me and said, come and take them away. My dad rejected me and the children. So I went back and I brought my children back. And at this point, I dropped them somewhere else. My younger sister that had a house, I was putting up with her. She has a small house. And I was there working up till I got help. And that was how I was able to move out. And then after I moved out, he now came back and said, let's go back and do the right thing. I said, go and meet my parents if you want me. And that was where he revoked. I said, well, we were not married. We were just in a relationship. But children came up. So if you want to do the right thing, go and meet my parents. Let them tell you the right thing to do. And that was how I break up. So when I heard that Osinachi died, I said I would have been in that place. I would have been in her case. But sometimes we need God to push us out. If they didn't sack him, I don't think I would have lived that house till today. Maybe I would have had 5 children in that house. Because I could not just leave. It was difficult living.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Jacinta, for sharing your story with us. We do appreciate you. And we appreciate God for bringing you out of that abusive relationship. I would de facto once again to Prof before I say something. Prof?
Yes, I'm here.
What do you have to say, sir?
Wow. We just thank the Lord, to God be the glory, for sparing your life, for saving you, for even giving you that encounter to basically strengthen you. And I think that was a turning point for you. That encounter you had was a turning point for you. And, the most painful part of this is that I couldn't just hear any resource you had around you where you could run to, which is exactly what we've been talking about. That okay, most of our women find themselves in this situation and there aren't resources. And I think it is high time we begin to really educate ourselves. I'm not saying they are not existing. I think people have to just get further educated and enlightened about different resources that there are. For instance, when I was checking online, I realized that there are groups of women in Nigeria now who basically have organized themselves to help women with domestic violence issues. Of course, what you're talking about was a long time ago, but I think the time is now and the time is right, where women, married women, young women, and people of all ages and gender should have what I would call a knowledge or a repository of resources in the community. It doesn't have to be government. It could be non-governmental organizations. It could be NGOs. And I think if you had an NGO that had come into play when you were going through this, they probably would have helped you. I mean, I'm not promoting any organization, but I recall I was reading when I was preparing for this, I came across this organization called the International Women's Initiative, and how they basically got involved in working with women in Nigeria, especially around domestic or violence against women in Nigeria, and they were looking at that analysis. So what I'm trying to say is that for our listeners, it is high time people begin to look online, look around, or ask questions about resources in the environment.
Yeah.
Because in your own case, you were practically you didn't have anywhere to go to, and that's actually what people have been saying, that many of these abused women or abused men, as the case may be, oftentimes are trapped. They are trapped. They are boxed to a corner in that relationship, and therefore that is what makes the abusive partner to keep doing that, to keep abusing. So I think the lesson from your own story and case is this: there are resources, there are places where people can go to. Instead of returning, like you kept returning, and as the more you return, the more the abuse escalated. And I think the key thing we've learned from you today is that even if your family is not accepting you, you have to look for non-governmental organizations. You have to probably approach some other people, who will be willing to help.
Yeah.
That is what I have to say.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you. And I believe there is a lot to learn from your story.
Big one.
One that I also want people to learn is one of our viewers actually made a comment where he says women's power, some women's power lies in their mouth, their tongue, and are more physical. I see a lot of situation where both parties get angry and one gets physical and the other ends up getting physical. Please, on no account should you try to go physical with someone who is abusing you. That's how people lose their life.
That's true.
The best thing, assess the situation and walk away.
Yeah.
Because guess what? At the end of the day, whatever reason you're going physical for will still not be solved at that moment.
Yeah.
It might never be solved. Perfect example. When he came back, he did not give you money for food for 4 days. You went physical. Last, he went physical, and he still escaped through the back. You still didn't get the money. And then came back again, and it's the same thing. There are always signs that you would see. There are always things you would see. And it's just sad that you were in it for almost 8 years.
10
years.
Okay.
Wow.
There are signs that you will see, and hey, you got to do what you got to do. And it's not easy. It's not easy. Try to explore other options, just as Prof said. And sometimes our parents could push us into such a situation.
Yeah.
But sometimes also, we need to open our minds to explore different options. Just as
Mr. Max, let me tell you about this. I now realize that is why we thank God for the positive part of social media.
Yes, sir.
I'm very sure Sister Jacinta's case would have been different if at that time social media was as pervasive as it is now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, I know there is this group in Nigeria called FIN, that's female in Nigeria.
Mm.
FIN
Yeah.
FIN has been able to help a lot of women massively. I mean, I got to know about FIN when Mark Zuckerberg came to Nigeria and met with FIN, and I was like, who are these folks? And he said he was basically impressed by the way they've been able to organize it, one of the largest ever Facebook group. And what did they deal with? They deal with issues regarding female subjugation, violence, abuse, what women are going through. Now, the beauty of that, when you see some of the things they discuss, or when you hear some things they discuss, and I have female, friends and my wife and others who basically have also been blessed by that media or that medium, is that when people have problems, they report it on FIN. And guess what? You can imagine an army of women going out for you to support. So what I'm trying to say is that social media has provided an escape, or what I would call the medium where people can get things quickly readdressed. Even it could be a small WhatsApp group. It could be a Facebook group. People now have the opportunity. Things cannot be hidden again. People now have the opportunity to quickly shout out and cry out. Like Mr. Max was telling us, that woman was crying out and just saying that, please don't tell the pastor, but tell other people that can help me. Tell other people that can help us. So I'm not blaming those who had a story and did not do anything, but I'm saying that with your example, Sir Jessica, I think it is high time people use their social media or their network or their friends to tell people what is happening. You see, the beauty of it is this. People who go through this problem, they don't have mental problem. What I mean by that is having challenges in a home does not mean you have a problem. It simply means, okay, things are not working as we expect, please help me. Crying out for help is not a sign of weakness.
Yes.
True. Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sister Jacinta, for coming on the show. We appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for your story, and thank you for the courage to bless people with your story, because I know people would learn a lot from it. Thank you very much. We will keep seeing backstage. All right. Take care, Jacinta.
Thank you.
Thank you, sister.
Prof.
Thank you, sir.
You've had everything. We have some comment. This is from Uzo. I think she was thanking you for your response. She's well spoken. Bimbo Adifeso is on. She said, "Good evening. Welcome to the show, Bimbo. Welcome. Ifunaya Juliet is on the show. She says, Jacinta is a very strong woman. Her story is so touching. I hope women in an abusive marriage / relationship summon up courage and leave. They need to be alive for themselves, for their loved ones. No one deserves to be hit by their partner." Yes, and yes, I do agree with you. Well, people, time has been far spent. I want to actually prepared to do this, so let me just do this. I want to thank everybody for your continuous support and viewership. Right now, chat room is going up. We're going up and up. There's a summary for the month, actually. Just within a month, we had 387 subscribers, 16,500 views, and 13 minutes, 0.2 thousand watch hours. Thank you very, very much. And we are 2,700 subscribers right now. Thank you very much. So please, like we always do, if you're watching from YouTube, if you're watching from Facebook, please go to our YouTube channel, Minster Max, and you're gonna see this right there, the picture right there, right? Minster Max, and subscribe. Okay, that's where chat room is going to. In the meantime, don't forget to like where you're watching this from. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Do not forget to hit that notification tab so you know just when we're on. And lastly, don't forget to share. Sharing is caring. Wow. So, Prof.
Yes, sir.
What's your Parting words for tonight, for our audience tonight, sir.
Yes, sir. The parting word is this. Please, everybody, once you hear about anybody being abused, know that you knowing about that information simply means you can save a life. You are not just knowing about it, you're not just hearing about it as a gossip or for information sake. You are, as it were, a rescuer. I mean, because at the end of the day, you're going to give account for that information you knew about and didn't do anything about. That's number one. Number two, I think it's high time churches come up with policy on domestic abuse and violence. Every church in our community, especially in Nigeria, the PFN, CAN, and other religious organizations, both Muslim, Christian, and otherwise, should have a firm policy, well-written policy communicated to people that domestic violence, verbal abuse, or any threat against women or against spouses are not accepted, and any traces of it would be prosecuted accordingly. And I think that will send a signal. And number three is that with this becoming a pandemic in our culture, people should please know where the resources are. I'm going to say this. We can't leave the entire responsibility for the churches to take care of, because quite honestly, it is because our systems are not well developed. That's why we defer to the church. But now with social media, now with the internet, now with non-governmental organizations, and guess what? Now with the international community at our fingertips online, we can cry out.
Yeah.
And you can post something on Facebook, on WhatsApp, on Instagram, on any social media. There is help. There is help for everybody. And so no woman should be in silence, basically suffering and dying. It's becoming one too many. And so the parting words again is this: churches should have a policy. Number two, the law enforcement, in respective countries should, basically be more ready to prosecute to a logical conclusion pending cases, because we have a lot of cases that are basically pending, are being currently investigated, and nothing has happened. What that does is gives people the boldness to continue to perpetuate violence against women. And finally, women, please, if the church or your community is not responding, please use social media. Thank you, sir.
Wow. Thank you very much, sir. And from me, my parting word is everything Prof has just said. That's my parting word. You get it. You get it. If you don't get it,
Forget about it.
in this case, don't forget about it. Please get it, because it will save your life. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Prof, for coming on the show once again. We appreciate you. You are very, very impactful. Whenever you're on the show, we actually gain a lot. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
To God be the glory. To God be the glory.
Yes, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying tuned and watching with us. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for the likes. I see all the likes. I see all the comments. Thank you for your comments. Oh my God, you guys have been awesome. Your comments has been like top notch. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you very, very much. Till we meet again, thank you, and just keep being you. Bless you.